I recently sat down for a follow-up interview with Yahel from Wrestling With Gaming, and we talked about different methods that we use to edit our videos, the gear we use, and pretty much just two buddies nerding out over making videos, YouTube drama, and all the rest. So if you're interested, just chill back for this one. Maybe grab yourself your drink of choice, beer, coffee, wine, water, whatever. This is definitely more of a laid back and just, hang out with friends type of interview. Unfortunately, though, we did it over Skype because we don't live close enough to do it in person, and all of the downsides of a Skype interview came with this one. We dropped signal a few times. There was delays, so one of us would start talking before the other one's voice came out. All the typical things that you get from a Skype interview. So hopefully the cuts won't be too jarring, and hopefully we didn't bore anybody. I had a great time doing it, but who knows? So sit back, relax, enjoy, and here is Yahel from Wrestling With Gaming. Hey everybody, I'm here with part 2, the follow-up of Yahel with Wrestling With Gaming. Documentarian, wrestler, musician, grower of nice hair. I saw that comment the other day on Twitter. It made me laugh. So what's up, man?
Not much, man. Just, here getting ready to move to Seattle, so I don't have to deal with humidity in my hair. The real reason to move. No, but otherwise, just hanging out, man. Happy to be back.
So you're going from Tampa to Seattle, right?
You know what? You're breaking up real bad.
Ooh, how about now?
Oh. Okay, you're back.
Sorry. My connection seems fine, but who knows? So you're moving from Tampa to Seattle?
Yeah. But I'll be like right next to Seattle. Trying to get on the Metal Jesus crew. Just moving there for.
You definitely have better hair. So.
No, I'm kidding. No. I got a promotion out there, and my girlfriend's out there, and so it all kind of worked out.
Oh, that's cool. Are you still doing the what would you call that? Statistician? Statistics and analyzing and stuff?
Doing an analyst role, just a little. It's basically an analyst role, just a little more intense and dealing with more people. I will impact more people.
Cool.
I guess.
Converting one CDI fan at a time across the globe.
Now I'll be converting thousands at a time.
So I really wanted to talk to you again about the X-Band documentary because I meant what I said. I wasn't blowing smoke. I'm not a nice person. If it sucked, I would have told you. But
I know you're not. You're not kind. I know.
But I mean, I was legit. It was over an hour long, and towards the end of it, I really was like, "No, it can't end. I want more." But I had so many questions for you as I was watching it, and then I ended up just like chilling out and enjoying myself and not thinking about anything other than the documentary. So I'm going to try to remember as much of it as possible. I probably should have taken notes, but that would have taken away from it. So, but damn, I mean, so that was almost a year's worth of work for you, right?
Yeah, it was about 10 months. It's not like I was working on it every day, A lot of the reason why it took so long was scheduling the interviews. As far as the guys from Catapult that I interviewed, the people that actually worked on X-Band, the developers, I really only ended up interviewing 5 people. But initially, it was going to be 15 people, 12 to 15. But some people kept rescheduling, and I don't fault these people. They're busy. They don't know who I am. They probably went to my channel, they saw my subscriber count, and didn't make it a priority. And I can't really blame them. Somebody that they don't know, who know that's going to take up a bunch of their time, and most of these people are still involved in the tech world, but it really worked out because I ended up talking to the main people I wanted to talk to, that were kind of really in the thick of it, and they all kind of worked on an aspect of X-Band I wanted to get into, so it all worked out. But
so how did you the last time we did this, I asked how you do your videos, and since then, half of mine have completely changed. The weeklies are the same. It's the formula that works best for me personally. But Did you follow the same type of path that you had for the other ones? Because, I mean, there was a tremendous amount of extra B-roll from this, right?
Yeah, I ended up with 18 hours of interviews. So that was another thing. Like, I had never. I have one video where I interview one person, audio only. We talked for like 20 minutes, and then I chopped it up. Pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
This is 18 hours of interviews. I've never done anything like that before. I quickly learned I had no idea what I was doing. And I think I'm gonna get. Well, listen. If you looked at my Adobe Premiere timeline, it would be very obvious. This was not someone with a good plan. But, but yeah, man. Like I just, I've thought about making a video called "How Not to Make a Documentary" because the last like third of it took me like I don't know, like the 20th of the amount of time that the first two thirds did. Because by then, like the more you work on videos, the more you streamline your workflow. Anyways,
Yeah.
and I thought mine was pretty optimized and streamlined, but for something like this, it really wasn't. So it really changed like how I organize things in Premiere, how I think about plotting out a video. I probably won't do one like this for a while, or I have so many interviews. But yeah, man, this definitely changed how I edit and how I organize things. But my number one tip would be to if for anybody that does a video like this, get some kind of software or pay someone to transcribe it for you.
Oh, so each of the interviews, it would have made your life easier if you could have transcribed the interviews with timestamps and then cut and pasted that into a thing and then just referenced the timestamps and gone from there.
Right, which I found out like there's an old version of Premiere that does it, like CS6 or something, and I think you can still download it if you're part of Creative Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
But by then it was like I was already so far into it that it was like, well, by the time I learn how to work with that or whatever, like, is it really going to be worth it,
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I would literally just I plotted out the entire video as of though I had no interviews. So the script was done, did it like a normal video, and then and this is like maybe my like third attempt at editing it, like trying different ways. And finally I said, I'll edit it this way, and then I'll go through each interview and I'll drop in bits and pieces of it of like where it fits the story or whatever's being talked about. And I had an outline already of like what I wanted to have discussed or whatever, but I ended up doing it that way. So yeah, man, I mean, I watched each interview probably like 2 times, a couple of them 3 times. So that didn't help make things any faster, but I just didn't want to miss anything important,
Another 2 weeks worth of work is just watching the videos, and because you don't watch them in real time, you got to pause them and make notes and stuff like that. So an hour-long interview is 2 hours minimum.
Yeah. Huh. I am 100% sure there are much better ways to do it,
I like that, though. I like the transcribing the interview thing. And not even transcribing the entire thing. I mean, that would be ideal, of course, if you had a team of people. But, rewatching it, timestamping with notes like, Bob drinks absinthe, Bob farts, whatever.
Right.
But, like, then transcribing the part that you want to use to drop into the script.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's plugins that'll make it so you can search the entire interview.
Really?
Yeah, I mean they're very, very expensive. Like the good ones, we're talking about like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And if I did this kind of project regularly, I would definitely invest in it. But for what'll probably be like 1 or 2 big ones a year, I don't feel like it's worth it. I'll just take notes next time.
So not to jump around a bit, but are you still running the same computer hardware that you were running?
Yeah, still running the same thing. I mean, it's about 5 years old, but it was pretty powerful at the time that I got it. So now I would say it's like upper mid-range level. So I mean, it's still, except for this video, it has never given me any slowdown, any real issues with editing. But this video, because of the length and just like I at one point I checked, like I think it was like 675 assets, and I don't remember how many gigabytes of video. So like my computer by the end of it, man. It was a chore to edit by the end of it. It was just like everything would like take forever to like update. But
so that's the biggest hurdles that I've had, and I hope this doesn't come out as pompous. I really don't mean it this way, but the biggest hurdles I've had have been limitations that were out of my control. Because I'm not a millionaire. I would like to be, but I got to work with what I have. So why did my videos look like shit for so long? Because I couldn't afford a camera. Finally got a camera. Hey, Bob, how come all of a sudden your videos look good? I bought a camera. Like, stuff like that. And the thing that's really been killing me lately is anything with 4K. So 1080p still works fine. It was a really amazing computer 6 or 7 years ago. It was like a $4,000 computer from a hedge fund. I got it, 3 years ago. So cool. But and I think for a lot of the stuff that I do, it's better that I do 4K because a lot of people that would want to watch something on their TV, now it's all in the native resolution, so there's no stretching. Some of the other stuff I put in 4K just so people will pay attention, because it's kind of like a neat marker where if something from my channel is in 4K, it's not just a weekly, there's some effort put into it. But as soon as I did that, like this last one that I did, the and the interview is going to air after the video, so we could talk about it, but there were, like, I had to edit blind. So I would get everything lined up, and then I would unlink the video and audio, and then move the video over, and then use the audio to edit, and then pull the video slider back, and I couldn't actually see almost anything that I did until I exported it. And that's a 25-minute video. So, now, luckily, a lot of the stuff, like, a lot of just the B-roll shots were fine, but when I shot, the camera that I use for me shots is my A6300, which only goes up to 4K 24, and then the GH5 I got just 4K 60, which the only reason I needed to go 60 is for CRT shots and stuff like that, but when I do 4K 60, I can kind of see it, it's choppy, but 4K 24 is unwatchable because it has to convert it in the timeline to 60 frames per second real time. So it's gotten to the point where I can't, like, I got to just drop coin on a new computer, which, that's one of those things where, like, it makes your whole body just cringe when you see how much you got to spend on something that could do 4K.
Yeah.
Like, my asshole slammed shut when I saw the fucking number when I did the PC configurator. Like,
dude,
oh, God.
I'm still doing 1080, man. I haven't even bothered because I for the reasons that you mentioned, I know it's going to chug. Have you tried, like, I guess it's still probably going to chug for you, like, even if you exported your 24 frame per second footage, like if you exported it all first out to 60 and then worked with that? So
that would work for some things, but the way I do videos now is I write videos like this, like the fancier ones that clearly have, like, a timeline to them. I write the script, which takes forever because that involves all the testing and all the equipment that I'm doing. But write the script, and then I record it all audio only. And I try to, like, even stand in the same place with the mic in the same spot on my shirt. And then I add in all the B-roll, and then I only go back and re-record me where it's needed, so I don't have to use a teleprompter or, like, constantly cut my footage a million times. That way I could just memorize 4 sentences at a time and stare at a camera.
Dude, that's pretty much what I do.
Really? That's perfect.
So we're either both doing it right or wrong.
Fold fingers before...
Yes. I clearly didn't know what to do with my hands during that video.
You know what's funny is the first video I did where you could actually see all of me was one of the first Dreamcast one. And there were so many comments from people like, why are you doing that with your hands? I'm like, I do that in every video. You just can't see because it's outside of the thing. But I'm always a twitchy fuck like that when it comes to my hands. But.
And it's funny because, like, before this video, I'm not on camera a lot in my videos, but the ones that I was before, like, it was pretty much you saw from, like, about here up. So it didn't really matter, all you saw was my arms maybe doing this or whatever, so it didn't matter what I was doing with my hands. And, like, now I'm like, oh fuck,
that's hysterical. I when I watched your video, I was excited, and I talked to my wife. I was like, hey, this might be the weirdest thing I've asked you, but I got a friend that's a drag queen that's 2 hours away, and I can't drive all the way up there to borrow his wig. Do you have a black wig? And she's like, I don't even want to know. Here's all the wigs I have. I'm not even going to ask why. And then, I said, all right, well, remember the dude we met at the trade show? So she's like, I said, what about a scarf? And she just burst out laughing. She's like, are you going to do something mean? I'm like, I really hope nobody thinks it is.
I thought it was hilarious, man.
Well, that's all I cared about. I shot 2 of the segments and exported 2 of those podcasts that day, and I had the other one waiting in case people were upset or in case you were upset about that. But I did that out of love, obviously.
No, yeah, dude, I thought it was hilarious, and actually, that got me some views. Like, a few people left me in comments like, "Oh, I came here after." Somebody said something like, "I came here after RGB made fun of you," or something like that.
Good. It was exactly what I was hoping for. But
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's my closest thing I could come to a wig, I guess, these days. But
That made it even funnier though that it was like not a wig.
very clearly not real hair.
Yeah. I thought that shit was hilarious. I mean, I reposted it.
Yeah.
On Instagram and stuff. I thought it was funny, man. I think I wrote like who wore it better or something.
Yeah, hashtag who wore it better. Exactly. And I had this.
It was weird. Like somebody like tweeted. So if I could explain one thing about the X-Band video, it's funny. Rather than explain anything like technical about it or how great the people behind it were, let me talk about my hair in this video. So like the reason why I had it like back and kind of to the side was my lapel mic was over here. Mm-hmm. And it was my first time using that lapel mic to record or whatever. And so, I record, I tested it, and my hair was actually like rustling up against it. And it was making like a little bit of a sound. So at first I tried it the other side. I tried it in the middle, but it sounded kind of weird. And then my shirt, like, I guess, I don't know if my Adam's apple was like kind of making it move down. So I'm like, let me just pull it back. I'll put it to the side, whatever. I'm only in like 5 segments. Like they're all real quick anyway. But then I got like a bunch of comments about my video or my hair, and like people were like tweeting Wang. I don't know if you know who Justin Wang is.
Yeah.
So people were like tweeting. Somebody tweeted at him or like, and added me like something like I was stealing his hairstyle or something, or like somebody was like genuinely like upset about this, and he and I are kind of friendly. Like, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah. I'm sure he was like, "What?"
Yeah, I seriously doubt anybody would anybody with half a brain would think that you were stealing someone's hair.
Yeah, it was so weird. I was just like, "Nah, man, I just was trying to get good audio. Sorry."
Yeah, I still haven't perfected audio yet, and being in Manhattan where I am is the biggest challenge, because anybody could make a microphone sound good if you have a soundproofed room. Mm-hmm. So I think I got to get one of those. Unfortunately, I think I got to drop like $400 or $500 on one of those mics that you ever see people get interviewed on the side of the road in a busy neighborhood, but somehow you could perfectly hear them. It's one of those. They're big too, so it's gonna be like
like a big shotgun mic.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you like? I just use like the Rode. It was like $70.
The
like
Smart
the
Lav.
Yeah, the Smart Lav.
So I own 2 of them, and that's all I use for any of the videos now. Other than I was telling you before, I use the Yeti for anything that's kind of live like this, even though it's pre-recorded so I could hit the button when you hear horns and explosions outside and shit. But I had a friend of mine all pissy, like, "Oh, why'd you drop $70 on that? Look at all these videos on YouTube that show that they're the same as the $20 one." Yeah, in a soundproofed room. But you get in a noisy environment, you put that thing on. It's not the best one in the world, but it's perfect for what I do. So
Exactly. It really cuts out. Even if you're like, I've found, even if you're like in a somewhat echoey room, it does a pretty good job of, I don't know if it has any kind of filtering, or maybe it's like the dynamic range of it or whatever, but I find that it actually does a pretty good job of still sounding like you're in a somewhat soundproofed area.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially for all the environments that I throw it in too. So yeah, agreed. That's definitely one.
The only complaint I have about it is like they advertise it as working with like Android, but it really only works with like 2 or 3 Android models. Like it's very specific ones.
So you get. I have it right in front of me. The thing that pisses me off about it is. You have to get these little TRRS to TRS adapters.
Yep, I got 2 of them somewhere.
Yep, or else it won't work with pretty much anything except a smartphone. So that was annoying, but yeah, I got those in the Tascam recorders for a lot of stuff now, and for this one because I knew it was gonna be a lot more off camera. I used the Tascam for everything, and then I went into the bedroom on a day I did laundry, I had laundry hanging up, the windows closed, and then I opened my closet, and I was just talking into the closet to absorb all the excess noise and everything. It's funny, I sent my wife a picture of me selfieing in front of her closet. I said, "Your closet's a good listener." She's like, "Get the fuck out of my closet."
Dude, I just imagine between the stories you've told me now, your wife's like, "God, I married a weirdo."
She knew I was a weirdo.
She knew. She knew she was getting into.
Dating. She knew exactly what she's getting into. We're in the city for her job, so she doesn't. I'm very lucky, but she doesn't complain at the fact that we pretty much live in my office. So.
Yeah.
You know, take one for the team.
Oh, if I could say something about the X-Band video,
I hope you say lots about the X-Band video.
no, just this one thing. No, so something that I don't think like really came across in the video is that he's in it towards the end and a little bit in the beginning. Tommy, the guy that from Retro.live, that's been kind of one of the guys spearheading bringing X-Band back. He was instrumental to me getting all of those interviews with those Catapult guys, and he was able to answer. Yeah, I mean, I basically harassed him online. Like I said, I found him like in like Facebook and like Twitter, and I think somewhere else. I just like messaged him. I'm like, hey, you're working on this thing to bring it back, and I'm making this video, blah blah blah. And it took him a while to reply because he's not like a social media guy. And anyways, he finally replied, and I had already like done like a little trailer or whatever to have something to show people. And he was like, and he watched that. And he watched a couple of my other videos. He's like, hey, I want to help. By the way, I happen to be in contact with pretty much everybody that ever worked on X-Band. Would you like me to reach out to them to see if they'll interview? I'm like, all right. I didn't think that they would, because dude, the guy, I don't get into it in the video, but the guys that worked on X-Band, they went on to create to help create Android. One of them created the Play Store in Android. One of the co-inventors of X-Band, the original co-creators of it, he oh my god, why is his name escaping me right now? It'll come back to me. He's one of the guys I talk about in the video, but he created WebOS, like a bunch of stuff. Like the guy Joe Britt that's in the video with the amazing hair. He
yes.
So I remember he's one of the guys. He's one of the co-founders of and inventors of Danger. The guys that made the T-Mobile Sidekick, the hip top for people overseas. These guys are like, and they're all still heavily involved in the tech industry. They're all like filthy rich. I'm like, they're not gonna want to do this. But dude, like they were like so passionate about X-Band still. You know, they remember it so fondly. And I would not have been able to get in touch with those people had it not been for Tommy. So he's kind of like the unsung hero really of the documentary. And Tommy will like, I would bounce things off of him all the time. Like the Catapult guys were still very helpful even after their interviews. Like they would send me stuff. Hey, I found this in my office. Hey, I found like stuff they didn't have to do, you know? But if I had like some like random technical question, I was like where I found conflicting information, Tommy would be able to like very quickly verify it either with me or maybe he'd text somebody else that I hadn't interviewed. So he was super, super helpful. And really, he's like the unsung hero of the documentary.
That's awesome. You know, very often you just really need one introduction. And it's, I try to do that on all of my videos all the time because I hate to sound like such a grumpy old man, but, every time you don't have time to watch an hour-long show, but you want to sit and watch something, I flip through YouTube, and it's mostly garbage. And it drives me insane. And it's mostly people talking about things where they don't actually know anything about. They saw a press release of something, and here's my take on the 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's like, what a fucking waste of my time. So I see all these channels, and I'm just like, who the, like, the Spawnwave channel, where he's got that look on his face holding up the Xbox. It's like, who the fuck is this guy? And one of my friends is like, no, he's great. He's great. I don't know what's up with the face, but he's great. So I watched him, like, and I tweeted him the other day on something. Luckily, I think he took the joke the right way. I certainly didn't mean any disrespect, but it's just, I need somebody just to be like, check out this person. And you were one of the ones one of the few channels, I think it's you and Pushing Up Roses were the only two channels I just found by accident that no one came onto. And I talked about the last one. That was a true story where I was kind of half asleep, and I think it was the Digital Pictures one.
Oh, okay.
And then
you're one of the two people that saw it. That's right. I remember we talked about this. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. I was up for like the next 4 hours just going through the videos. Those were awesome.
Sorry,
I didn't catch the porn one, so it must have been when you had taken those off before.
Yeah, they were.
But yeah,
I might re-upload those to my second channel one day. I don't know. Probably not. They'll probably be the end of YouTube if I do that.
So I guess there's going to be a lot of jumping around in this. Mostly,
that's fine.
Mostly because I get a bunch of questions, but also because I just started drinking tonight. So,
dude, I'm drinking too, and I rarely drink these days, so it doesn't take much.
Really? Well, I had a long day and I didn't really eat anything, which is shocking because But this is gonna hit. This is gonna hit a little harder. But so you just mentioned another channel, and that's something. Is there YouTube etiquette for this? Because I am by no means a YouTuber. I am that loud fat guy from Retro RGB that also does videos. It's so I don't know what the etiquette is. Are you supposed to have a channel where your main videos, like only the stuff like your X-Band documentary and all the other ones that you did, are on one channel, and are you supposed to have a secondary for just anything you want? Is that the way it is now, or is it?
You know what, dude? I don't fucking know. I'll tell you why I did it. It's there's the whole YouTube adpocalypse thing happened, right? And for me, the way it impacted me, I had already taken down those weird visual novel games well before like the YouTube adpocalypse, so that wasn't why I did it. But my wrestling matches were causing my entire channel to get demonetized.
Really?
Yeah, because that was one of the things, and because wrestling is not very popular, in the grand scheme of things. A lot of people don't know that.
There's a few million people that might disagree with you, but okay, I'll roll with this.
I mean, this is me saying as a wrestler. I mean, well, I just mean in terms of popular pop culture, it's nothing compared to the audience that Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or that kind of stuff has, or even pick I don't know an IP in video games, Halo or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Mm-hmm. So anyways, YouTube was demonetizing basically every wrestling related channel that wasn't WWE. I guess they were just the violence must not be advertiser friendly, the fake violence, I don't know, dude. But what was first, it was just the wrestling matches. I could care less about that. And then all my other videos started getting demonetized. So I'm like, what the hell? And so I dug into it, and basically if your channel was just having content that was, getting demonetized frequently, your whole channel was in danger. So I took them down from there and started posting them sporadically on a secondary channel. Just to because people ask about oh, why is it Wrestling with Gaming? Oh, where are your matches? So that's why I did it. So I just occasionally post crap there.
So there's a ton of people that are upset with YouTube these days, and I've explored alternatives and stuff. I'm not going to go into the whole story again, but the one very short story I will repeat is I did a video, and then I was a whiny little bitch and did a smash video for the follow-up because I had enough of that. And I turned off the comments because I didn't want to deal with the trolls. If you follow my work, you'd get it. If you don't, you don't. It's fine. Whatever. Like it, hate it, doesn't matter. And then I did an experiment just for the hell of it. And I paid to promote that video. And it didn't get promoted. And there was nothing in there that was bad. I didn't even swear. And I swear in all my videos. Nothing.
Really?
They would not promote it. And it's one of those things where it's just I'm not a YouTuber. I'm somebody that cares very much about the things that I do or enjoys having fun talking to friends. But still, it's, I don't wake up and live my life by rules that they set. So I'm not going, I'm not going to continue to, and it drives me crazy, and it upsets me too that a lot of people that have, started out making their living through YouTube, and now they have to change what they do to continue to get paid because of the rules that are changing when they're not doing anything wrong. So,
yeah.
Does kind of drive me crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of people complain about YouTube on, especially if I'm sure we both have a lot of YouTubers that we're friends with and that we follow on Twitter, and you see a lot of people complain about YouTube. I kind of I would say a lot of them. Well, let me think about how I'm saying this. It's not that they don't have a right to complain because they really do. And some of the things that YouTube does just make no sense, right? Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of times people, and I've been guilty of it too, we're a little impatient with YouTube sometimes, where it's hey, I got a yellow icon on my video, and I have to wait for it to be reviewed. And dude, they usually review it within 24 hours or less. At least now, when the first adpocalypse happened, of course, it wasn't that quick because they had millions and millions and millions of videos that were getting auto-flagged. Right. So I think sometimes we forget that, and again, I'm guilty of it. We're not paying YouTube. I guess you could argue because they're taking some of your ad revenue that's how you're paying YouTube to host your content. But you could still put it up there free. They're still giving us a platform. they're really the ones taking the risk, right? They're the ones investing the money. I mean, they're still not making a profit as far as I know. Obviously, there's getting information they can feed to Google, and Google's making their money at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong.
The only thing, difference of opinion, everything you just said was intelligent and made sense in the conversation, except that they're not making money off of it. They're a billion dollar profit corporation.
Oh, yeah, dude.
They're making money.
They're making their money. Maybe I should YouTube on an accounting ledger. Maybe YouTube isn't making money, but the data that they collect and they feed to Google more than makes up the money for it. So yeah. I mean, Google was making money from YouTube. They wouldn't have invested and bought it if they weren't. So, but I mean, I think sometimes people forget that if YouTube didn't exist to provide these tools and people act like YouTube doesn't promote smaller channels ever, and it's impossible to grow on YouTube.
Pretty much don't.
I would say that that's not true. I'm not saying that they do a good job of it, but I mean, there are people that act like YouTube never promotes. I get it. If you go to the gaming trending tab, you're right. Rarely ever are you gonna see a small channel there. It's gonna be some Fortnite player with green hair or whatever, something stupid like that, 10 of those things, and maybe Scott the Woz. He'll be the one real good creator that's in there being promoted. So I get that, but by the same token, over the last 10 months when I didn't post anything because I was finishing up this X-Band video, I gained 20,000 subscribers. And I had a couple of months where my Game Shark video went from 200 something thousand views to 500,000 in about 2.5 months. So I'm not saying I'm not saying YouTube does as good of a job as it should. I'm not saying it's diverse enough, but I think it's unfair for people to just be it's impossible. YouTube never whatever.
So it's not impossible. It's just unfair. So your situation is a channel that has a bunch of content that's good enough where it's still relevant a year later. Whereas your average YouTuber, it's irrelevant 24 hours after it's posted. When I say YouTuber, I mean the YouTuber, the millennials that yell into a camera and stuff.
Yeah. This happened this week at GameStop YouTuber.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So for your channel, who now, I mean, when I first met you, you had quite a big following, and now it's starting to gain momentum a lot. So for that to build in the background makes sense to me. But I talked to a few marketing teams, which were way out of my price range, by the way. But they basically said, if I wanted to be a YouTuber, everything I'm doing is wrong, and what I should do is delete the channel, start a new one, and swear to God. And I said, look, I've built, it's taken years. I got almost 20,000 subscribers. I said, delete it, start a new one, have only your high-end content on that one, start a secondary of that with everything else, and that's how you'll get picked up in their algorithm. And 3 or 4 of these high-end videos that you have will pick up your subscribers again in 3 months. And that's why I'm no, that's not me. I'm never going to I got to just do what I do, or else I'm going to fail. So
Exactly. And dude, so I was lucky enough to get a YouTube brand manager when I got to around 38,000 subs or so. I got a random email, hey, we're offering you this if you want to take advantage of it. I'm oh, okay. And it was good. And again, it's free from YouTube, so I don't want to complain about it. But they do an analysis of your channel, but if you're in analytics, you can pretty much do it yourself.
Right.
But I asked about the algorithm and this and that, and honestly, I don't think they even know themselves.
Your brand manager definitely doesn't know. It's the people who build their living off of figuring out the algorithm to charge you and me an insane amount of money to build our brands. And I'm actually okay with that, by the way. The marketing teams, if they're as good as they say they are, they deserve their money. I'm all right with that part of it. But they don't even tell the brand ambassadors what they're, and that makes sense. Why would, if you were the CEO of a company with this dreaded algorithm, why would you tell your bottom feeder employees about that? You would never. Well,
and then the thing is, if everyone is doing, if there was a secret formula to getting the algorithm to pick you up, and everybody was doing it, then nobody is getting picked. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because obviously they can't promote everybody, literally. But the interesting thing was the brand manager kind of gave me. She didn't tell me to delete my channel, but some of the advice she gave me was make upload weekly, the kind of general stuff you hear. Upload weekly, look to see what's going on currently. Kind of like what we were talking about,
Right.
like the channels that do like the current gaming news and that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of the general advice. And I had like 3 sessions with the brand manager. And in the second session, she's like, your channel like is shouldn't be like getting promoted like if you follow the normal advice we give, because you're not uploading every week, you're not on camera all the time, you're not doing a current topic. So she was like, I talked to some people like on, I can't remember what team she said, but about it, and she's like, yeah, I guess just do what you're doing. I was just like, okay.
I could answer that, even though I'm very clearly not an expert. I could answer that. It's because you have good content. And it's because you don't have a time limit on your content. You're not talking about, let's talk about the Modelo Bob was drinking on the interview last night. Like, you talk about stuff that has a place and it's not going to get old. So, anytime you have something like that, anytime somebody discovers you, they're going to tell their friends, and now you're going to get more views. And that's one of the, keep doing what you're doing. She was right about that. Keep doing what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
Don't change.
Well, I think a lot of your content is kind of similar, right? Because if you're talking about, how to get like, the best RGB picture out of whatever, or like your video on the Mega SD, when you do these comparisons, because anybody looking to pick up the Mega SD, whether it's they're going to pick it up, during the pre-sale, or they're going to pick it up a year from now, they're still going to probably read, it's going to, I don't know what the price point is on it, but it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be $20. So they're going to do a little bit of research, and your video, sure, they may do some firmware updates or whatever so some things might change very slightly, or like you mentioned towards the end, that maybe through an adapter to play, like, actually you might have tweeted about this, about doing like 32x CD
32X
games.
CD, right? Yeah.
So, there might be a couple things here and there that change. I mean, that happens with some of my videos too, but overall this sounds weird. Timeless. It's timeless content, right? In the sense that it's maybe time proof is what I should say. Like, it's not going to be less relevant, a year from now.
The way I look at it, and I really mean this positively. I hope no one thinks I'm shitting on my own channel like this, but the weekly stuff only matter that week, and because that's it. So if you I wouldn't tell anybody go back and listen to all of my weeklies, because you're going to hear a lot of the same things repeated. You're going to hear a lot of the hey, third update this week, and sorry about but that's fine. It's just meant to be something. So the only purpose of my weeklies are for people who don't have time to sift through forums, or don't want to deal with the toxicity of it, just to be able to throw an earbud in, half listen, and go, oh, wait a minute, I like that one thing, let me back up and listen to that again. And that's cool. I'm totally all right with that. And the bigger production stuff I do is just not so far off from that, with entertainment value in there. I hope somebody walks away from the Mega SD video enjoying it, not just getting the info. Whereas the weeklies, it's you don't really have to watch. It's on all the video platforms, because why not? But you don't have to watch that. But yeah, I do want to do a couple of, and I've been putting them off because I want to make sure they're as good as I can, but I do want to have a few timeless ones where it really talks about the history of something. And I'm not stepping out of my wheelbox, the stuff that I'm good at, but the history of something and stuff that's not going to change, so that 5 years from now I could reference that and it's still 100% relevant. But I'm happy with what I do. I see what's happening to a few other people, and I don't want to drop a name, because I certainly don't want to talk about anybody that may or may not want to have this kind of spotlight on them, but we both know somebody whose videos are fucking awesome, who still gets between 2,000 and 8,000. I think we both know a few people like that.
Yeah.
They're not getting the love that they deserve, and their video content and the quality is up to par with the rest. The consistency of it, they should be a 100,000 subscriber YouTuber, and they're not, and it drives me nuts.
And I get it, man, because I felt honestly, that's how I felt up until I got to around 10,000 subscribers, and then for whatever reason, YouTube suddenly started promoting me, and because I think maybe I was about a year and a half in, and at that point I was putting out videos every 1 to 2 weeks, maybe every 3 weeks. I was putting out more regularly than now. The more it's funny, I feel with YouTube, the better you get at the kind of content you make, right? Whether it's you get better at editing, better at script writing, you get better at research, whatever it is, the one thing it does is it makes you less efficient in a way, because at least for me, maybe I'm just an idiot, because I'm like, okay, I want to put more attention to this because I know I can get more detail at this. I know I can make this look better or sound better. I can make it more visually appealing, or I can do a like I'll spend like literally like 3 hours on doing some stupid weird cut. Like in the X-Fan video, I do some cut. It lasts, I think, 1.5 seconds. After I finished it, I texted Ian, Historic Nerd. I was like, I just wasted 3 hours for 1.5 seconds of footage. And it was just like this magazine that comes in, the magazine cover goes away, it shows you the article, goes into the article, comes back out. And then the part that took a long time is the magazine cover comes back in and a bunch of stuff in the magazine cover fades away. And now I'm in the magazine talking literally for like half a second.
I remember that. I remember looking at that going, I bet you that motherfucker spent all day on that magazine.
It was so unnecessary.
It was awesome,
I could have just done a stupid jump cut to me, but like as you get better and stuff, and like, you're like me. You want to hold yourself to a high standard, right? You want something that you're proud of. That when that if you look back and watch it, you're like, damn, I did that. Yeah. I don't even remember what I was talking about, but this
how long it takes for some of the edits and how you somehow get inefficient when you start to get better at things because you want to add those flair of awesomeness.
Oh, I remember now. So it was back to like the thing about YouTube promoting people. So even back then when I was making videos like more frequently, like I was at a point where like, damn, YouTube's never going to promote me. YouTube's never going to show me to anybody, because I had like what I felt was like at that point like a decent amount of video, not a huge library, but they were well produced, well researched, or whatever. Like now, I'm sure if I go back and watch one of them, I'll be like, what a shitty fucking video, But yeah, so I get it, man. It is frustrating. I'm frustrated about the X-Band video, actually. Like it's got like, and I shouldn't be. It has 173,000 views, something like that, and I'm like, ugh, that's because I've lost perspective.
But when you've spent that much time on something, right? So even if you, when I say only, with some annoying air quotes here, even if you only put in like a half hour a day or 20 minutes a day or something, it's still a long period of time of your life that was working on this, and you want to feel like the return was worth it. So I understand your the frustrations with that. But I mean, if it's like the rest of your videos, it's going to be a slow climb, and it's going to be continuing to grow.
Right.
So.
And really, whose fault was it that it's not like YouTube? Like I was getting mad at YouTube, but I shouldn't be. YouTube didn't make me spend 10 months on a video. And, it was a conscious decision that I made. I knew that in those 10 months, the time that I was spending working on the X-Band video, I knew that I could have just like put it on the back burner for a bit and made like a bunch of other videos, and my channel would have grown more, right? Because the more videos you make, you get a little bit of boost, you get some subscribers from that. They start watching your back catalog, they share it. I could probably be like close to 100,000 now if I had put out videos consistently. But I was like, well, do I want to do that, or do I want to make something that I'm gonna be really, really proud of? And as a kid, dude, I loved X-Band. Like, I loved it.
Yeah, it showed. I mean that as a compliment, not as a dig or anything. It showed. You obviously loved that thing, and you loved being able to bring the story forth to the point where an hour later, I guarantee I'm not the only one, didn't want it to end. I mean that shit seeped through.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. And there were a few comments like that, that said like, oh, I thought I was gonna watch a few minutes, and here I am an hour later, which is like super nice to read, and it did make it feel like, okay, this was worth it. And I had thought, and I had people like from pretty big channels give me advice to like post it into like 2 or 3 parts, because I reached out to people because I was concerned. It's an hour long. I like sometimes if I see a video is like 45 minutes on YouTube, I'll be like, ugh, do I really want to invest 45 minutes of this right now, or I'll add it to my watch later.
That goes back to word of mouth. If that's somebody that you know, or somebody that one of your friends is like, hey, you should check out this person, and you see the video, 45 minutes isn't a very long number at that point. So I see, that's an
but like
thing.
my whole thing was like, I want people to learn about X-Band, right? And because I know like once people, or at least I felt, once people saw how passionate the developers were about it and the people that played it, more so than anything I was doing in the video. Like they're the stars of the video. You know, the story, them and the story is really the star of the video. So I was like, if they can just see it, like they'll watch the whole thing. But I was like, they're not gonna watch any of it if they see it's an hour long and they don't want to fucking click on it, you know. So, but I ended up just doing it as an hour, one big thing because that's how it was designed, and I think it flows better that way, you know.
I I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much if it were multiple parts. I would have still loved
Right.
it, but and I don't know if this is my arrogance or my insecurities talking, but the only piece of advice I could give somebody I mean, I look up to your work, so the only thing
It's ridiculous, but thank you.
the only thing I'd be confident giving you, the only advice is every time I've done something that I wanted to do that failed, I looked back at that like, tried my best, all right, still like it for what it was, whatever. Whatever I tried anything, it doesn't, not just this, anything in life where I was like, well, let me try something the way I think this might be the popular way to do it. I always failed, and I always hated myself for it. So just do what you want to do, because at the end of the day, it's like music, right? I still love the songs that I wrote. I don't care if 1 million people listen to them. It's, it's the ones I wrote. It's the ones the way I wanted to listen to it. So there you go.
That's actually a great analogy, man. And you say you're not a YouTuber, but I don't know, man. Like this Mega SD video, I don't know, man. It was very not that it. So it reminded me, and not in the sense that I felt like you were copying them, because that's not what I felt like. But it reminded me a little bit of a My Life in Gaming video, in the sense that there was so much detail. Like there's you give so much information, but it doesn't feel like I'm just like having like somebody, regurgitate like some giant script that they wrote. It's all relevant. It all flows. Like I think the video is like 25 minutes, 26 minutes. And when I went to watch it, I'm like, I literally said, probably what you said, you went to go watch my video. Let me watch a few minutes of this. It was this morning before I started work. I'm like, let me watch a few minutes of this. And then I'll like make breakfast and go to the gym and go to work. I ended up sitting there like the entire time, and when it was over, I was like, oh, 25 minutes went by. Like it felt like nothing, which is ultimately what you want, right? You want people to just be like,
exactly,
that's
right.
it. Wait, I want more. But you gave so much information, dude, and it didn't feel like I was being like educated, even though I was. So it was really good stuff, man. You say you're not a YouTuber, but well, you're turning into a little bit of a filmmaker, man.
I got two things to say about that. I'll come back to the YouTuber comment, but the people that I'm lucky enough to have gotten to know over the years are the only reason it looks like that. My buddy Kenji is the one that got me started with how to use Premiere in a way that he was the one that explained it to me in a way that I could understand it. And then, My Life in Gaming are kings of, I mean, they're great at a lot of things, but being able to have a visual along with the audio that matches in a way where even if it's not the exact same thing they're talking about, it brings it up in a way where
relevant.
Yeah, even if you're not fully fluent in English, you could kind of put two and two together. And then I get to know John Linneman a bit, who's just fucking awesome dude. And he's the type of person where you ask him a question and he'll just tell you how he does it. Mostly because he's a really nice person, but also because he knows he can give me a blueprint and I'm still not going to be able to do it the way he does it. It's like Michael Jordan telling you how to dunk. Oh yeah, you can explain every millisecond of what's going on. You're still not going to do it. So yeah, I got a lot to live up to being lucky enough to be friends with the people that I'm friends with, and that's the only reason the content is getting better the way it is. It's just I'm lucky enough to have a bunch of cool people around me, but. The YouTuber,
but
sorry, continue.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
The YouTuber thing only gets me because I don't think you're a YouTuber either. I called you a documentarian at the beginning of this.
Oh yeah, you did.
Because that's actually how I view you. I think the videos of yours that I've seen could be just as at home on Netflix or on Amazon Prime, and I don't even want to say Amazon Prime anymore because of all the very crazy shit I've seen on there. There's people narrating over pictures for an hour and a half, and yet it's a documentary on aliens, but it's a bunch of weird pictures, and it's not even people talking. They type it into like a text-to-speech.
Yes.
Thing. So yeah, no, you're not an Amazon Prime documentarian.
Well,
You're an
thank you.
actual
I
documentarian.
appreciate it.
The Earth
You know
is
what's funny?
round. Maybe aliens exist, but that person didn't meet one.
So there were like some kind of like, I mean, very, very, very preliminary, didn't really go anywhere. Talks about putting the Expand doc on Amazon Prime. And maybe like at some point down the line that'll be a thing or whatever. But I don't know, man. There's some questionable, especially like if you go to the gaming content. There's Let's Plays on Amazon Prime. Let's Plays. So I'm like,
You know what really
and
got
there's
me?
nothing wrong with Let's Plays. There's nothing wrong with,
No,
but I'm just like,
it's not the right place for it.
exactly.
I watched a haunted house documentary one time, and I normally don't like those. I've been to those in real life. That's all. I'll talk about that if you want to another time. But like, I watched it thinking like, all right, this is neat. It's only a half hour long, and I got 25 minutes into a 30-minute documentary. And it was fake. It was Blair Witch Chronicles style. So I went and looked it up, and the filmmaker had changed his name a bunch of times. It was entertaining, but for me, I was pissed because you lied to me. If you
Sure, it
told
wasn't
me
what
here's
you-
like,
yeah.
a half hour like my spin on the Blair Witch Project, I probably would have watched it anyway. But I was lied to. I was expecting a documentary about something that really happened. So I can't deal with that with Amazon.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're probably gonna try. I say we because one of the people from Catapult, who for those that haven't seen it, Catapult was the parent company that made Expand. I mean, they're really the same thing. Catapult and Expand, they're the same thing. They have like contacts with some people that have like some stuff on like Netflix and Amazon and stuff. So we maybe in the future it'll be on some kind of streaming service. But I was like, when I was talking to some people from Amazon, I'm like, I'm good.
That's some funny shit.
Yeah. But what I wanted to say though was, so you mentioned earlier, the importance of having footage, something visual that actually goes along with what you're talking about, what you're presenting. Like, there's so many, and this is especially like rampant in gaming videos. And again, I'm not like, I'm not the cream of the crop like video game YouTuber or whatever. I'm not Norm. I'm not the gaming historian. But there's so many YouTubers that do gaming stuff where they'll show random video game footage while they're talking about something that has nothing to do with it. And here's the kicker: what's playing underneath them? Background music from some other random game that has nothing to do with either the footage, what they're talking about, and a lot of times it doesn't even like go like as far as like the beats per minute on it. It's either like too fast or too slow. Like, there's just like three things that have nothing to do with each other happening.
I can't watch them.
What the fuck? Like,
Yeah, I can't watch them. That and the ones where people they'll have like 10 sentences in a row, and they'll cut and paste with each one. So you're looking at somebody's face going across the screen. Like it'll send me into a seizure if I keep watching it. I can't. I get 10 seconds into it and I go, nope, no way.
So this is what kills me about those kind of jump cuts is whenever, like, I don't know, if someone's like talking into a camera for like 8 minutes straight and it's interesting, and there are some people that I can't do it, but some people have that big personality where they make it really interesting or whatever. And if they have like one or two jump cuts, 8 minutes straight, okay, that's fine. But there are sometimes I'll watch a video in the first 10 seconds, a jump cut. Just do it over.
10 seconds, 3 jump cuts.
Just do it over. It was the first fucking 10 seconds.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. It's at the point where people are annoyed with me for apologizing when I have to throw one jump cut in a 40-minute video that has many, like... But I can't tell you how many times, like, you probably heard a bit of the siren, I hit mute on this one, but I can't tell you how many times I've been at the end of a 5-minute segment, and in my brain I'm going, fuck, I'm proud of that. That was actually really good.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what was, because it's very hard for me sometimes to whatever's going on up here to make it fall out of my face the right way. And I'm like, oh man, it was perfect. And then there's like a brrr on the horn, and I'll redo the whole thing. I'll redo the whole thing. I can't do it. Only if there's a rare moment. The days where there's construction outside, that's when I have to just do it. There was the other day, there was 2 things going on, and it was unbearable. And I, like, around 11:45, it went silent, and I'm like, they're on lunch break. And I ran in and I shot the whole podcast. I'm like, sorry, everybody, this is really quick. All right, number one. Go through the whole thing in like, one take each. Just like, yeah, that was a little crazy, but I can't do the jump cuts.
I just don't get it. And the funny thing is, a lot of times these channels that do like a lot of jump cuts, and you know what's funny though? A lot of these channels have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So I don't know. Maybe you and I are in the wrong. I mean, because obviously like they're successful. And you know what? Like, dude, more power to them. It's just me personally. A lot of times, like you could just like easily fix that jump cut by putting in a piece of footage related to what you're talking about, so people don't know you did a jump cut. You know, there's like ways around it to make it not only like easier to view, but like maybe even like enhance the value of your video. Mm-hmm. And people don't do it. Like, I'm just like, what?
Did you see the movie A Star Is Born? The last version. There's like 10 versions of it.
No.
So this is not a spoiler for anybody who suddenly really wants to watch this Bradley Cooper movie, but the whole side plot is Lady Gaga's just like, this person, she's kind of shy, and she's starting to sing and get out there, and she meets a producer who tells her to become someone else, and you'll be a star. And this is no bearing on the plot of the movie, by the way. And she kind of follows suit, and now she's a huge star. And it bugged me because I was never, ever going to be a huge star in anything I did, but every band I've ever been in, if you grew your hair like Yahel's and got a bunch of tattoos, maybe a tan, did some sit-ups, this band would go a lot farther. Yeah, why don't you just eat my shit while I drink a beer and tell you to go fuck yourself? Because none of those things are going to happen. Music's going to be the same. I still didn't miss a note the last 4 shows. I'm still better than those 4 people with the long hair and the tattoos. And where am I? Not in a band. so there's a point to both of it. Where am I? On a YouTube channel that has content that I'm very proud of, that has 20,000 subscribers, not 200,000 subscribers. Yeah. So, you got to make.
But your website. Oh wait, your website is like super successful though.
It is. As far as websites in 2019 go, I mean, if it was 1999, I would call myself a successful website owner. But you can't make as much. I mean, like a fraction of what you would off a website years ago. But yeah, and it always makes me proud when people recognize me as Bob from Retro RGB, not the guy drinking a beer on YouTube. Because to me, those are 2 completely different things. The amount of hours that went into that are. Like, I should be locked up for putting the amount of hours into that when I could have been at another job making a lot of money. Like, nope. Here I am telling you how to make your CDI get pristine RGB output at the exact right millivolts. So if you put it on on an upscaler, you could see Hulk Hogan's pixelated pecs.
Listen, man, I'm telling you. Listen, you don't even need to mod your. I'm actually almost anti. RGB modding CDIs at this point, because I don't know, maybe it's just my CDI model, maybe it's the love and attention and special care I give it, but I can't tell you how many times I'm streaming it, so like obviously it's getting compressed, like over YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and people will be like, oh, is this video out, is this RGB modded, blah blah blah, and it's just literally like composite running through like a shitty like $8 Amazon to like HDMI converter into an Elgato. Like it's just like the worst possible way to do it, and it still looks so good and pristine, so delicious.
Can I be honest with you? You sound right now like somebody that's never seen an RGB modded CDI in person. Are you? Have you ever actually seen it?
No, I've never seen one in person. And I'm sure you're. I'm sure if I saw one, I'd be like,
oh, that's. I've had people. I had somebody give me a very long and stern talking to about how I should be telling people that RGB is a choice and using composite is the right way to do it. It's perfectly fine. In fact, using composite on a CRT is an excellent way to play all of these old video games. But it's not the right way. It's not the best way. You gotta, choose what your eyes like the best. But I guarantee you, after seeing it on an RGB monitor in RGB, you'll be like, shit, yeah, he's right.
Speaking of jump cuts, do you mind if I go make myself another drink?
No, I'll grab a second too. So I do have a question for you. I heard that you hung out with Jimmy Hoppa live in person.
I did, and he has a real human face made out of skin.
Well, I think he was live on video for the first time on my interview with him when we get drunk at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah. And he also made an appearance in the very brief cameo in the My Life in Gaming M2 doc.
Yes, absolutely. So I had the pleasure of meeting Jimmy Hava in person in Vegas, where we went day drinking together for reals, not just over Skype. And
Right.
it was every story that you hear about don't meet your heroes, like, this throws it out the window. Jimmy Hoppa is the fucking man. He is equal to everything he is on his, like, he's the same. He is exactly the same online as he is in person. He was so much fucking
I
fun to
wasn't
hang out with.
impressed. No, I'm
In fact,
He's awesome. He's
I'm
awesome.
trying to schedule a panel at Portland Retro Gaming Expo this year. As like an excuse for me to drag my ass out there, just so I can go out and meet up with him again. I almost flew out to Arizona, but I already committed to doing a different expo on the exact same day. So,
Dude, I'm going to Portland Retro for sure. I mean, I'll be in Seattle, so it
yeah,
won't be
kinda makes
like that
sense.
far from me. So I'll definitely be going. But yeah, dude, Jimmy is awesome. He was a fucking sweetheart. Really cool. In fact, the only thing that I would say was a disappointment, and we were both disappointed with each other over this, is we barely drank that weekend.
Oh, we drank enough for all of us on the day that we drank.
But he and I, we've already decided to make up for that, at this year's PRG. So
Well, if I'm coming, we were talking before about like manners, and you're around a bunch of people you don't know. I'm like the fucking Kool-Aid man that smashes through the wall and just starts yelling at shit. So that's happening this year, and I do have a funny Jimmy Hoppa story. So we're drinking
Okay.
all day, and he can hold his drink. He's just the same Jimmy all day long. Maybe giggles a little more towards the end of the night, and I'm starting to get hungry now. We've been drinking for about 9 hours at this point. I'm like, all right, let me get some dinner in. I gotta get to the airport, and I was like, well, what's good around here? I want, like, Vegas has every food you could imagine. Some of it's great, some of it's not. You've been around here. He's like, here, there's a White Castle right down the street. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Let's check Google. Let's walk around for a bit. So we're because you could walk with if you're in Old Vegas, with the dome there, you could kind of just walk around with beers. So we're walking around. We're looking for stuff, and what about this place? Yeah, it sounds good. There's a White Castle right down there. I'm like, ah. So we keep walking, we're drinking, we finish the beer, and he's like, hey, I know a place we can go. We turn the corner, and he walked me straight into White Castle. Now, let me tell you, I'm not being disrespectful when I say that we were by far the classiest and prettiest patrons in that White Castle at 9 o'clock that night.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
good times.
Jimmy's cool, man. He was he probably wouldn't want me to say this, but he's very good with kids, which was a shock to. I'm shocked anytime anyone's good with kids, just because I'm so awful with them. But yeah, I'm not a fan. But
And I said the same thing when I went to visit him. I'm playing with his daughter in the pool, like, throwing toys back and forth, having fun. And he's like, "You're good with kids? I thought you just yelled and smashed things." Yeah,
I'm
I am a
shocked
big
anytime
kid.
someone's good with kids, dude. That's a skill in my world, at least. But yeah, like we were there with Genovi, another YouTuber. He's got a great channel. Talk
Absolutely.
about
Talk
like
about him all the time.
under promoted channels. Like
Seriously.
Genovi does some really good work. But anyways, like Genovi's kids were there, and I was like scared to talk to them because number one, like I just don't want to say anything
they're small
stupid,
people and you don't
and I
know what to
know I'm
say.
not good with kids. Yeah, and I'm not good with kids already, and but like Jimmy was like great with them. Like it was amazing. If only Jimmy's channel was as good as his way with kids. I'm just kidding. I only said that because I'm sure Jimmy's gonna watch.
I hope he does. I hope he does. I hope he gets. I hope he gets mad when we shit on him. I hope he gets embarrassed when we talk nice about him.
Jimmy is another unsung hero. Actually, like he does so much for so many people, like translating random stuff. He sent me actually some scans of the from a Japanese magazine. Like he's scanned it himself from a magazine. Like he took the time. He mentioned he was in the X-Band video. Well, I'm like in a group chat with him. And he's like, hey, I know I have a magazine where the Saturn, oh my god, the Saturn modem. Like now I can't remember what it's called because I'm drunk. But anyways, the X-Band people had made it, basically. He's like, and it's got some information about it. I can scan it for you. Dude, he didn't have to do that. Like, he does stuff like that for, like, so many channels.
He's always
And
been one of the behind the scenes players and stuff like that. He's always helped a lot of people out and doesn't ever ask
he's
for recognition.
selfless.
There was a video, and I want to be purposely vague about this. There was a video that I did credit him on, but didn't mention ever because he went out of his way to do me a favor and translate to somebody that turned out to not be very nice. But it's Jimmy. I mean, he's lovable, so the guy was nice to him. But yeah, I kind of didn't want to. I didn't want to say his name because my interpretation of everything that happened was like, this guy's kind of a dick. So, and like, I even asked a different, like, I was like, hey, read this email. Make sure, is Google Translate wrong? Was Jimmy wrong? And they're like, no, that's spot on. That guy's kind of a dick. So, like, you know what? Jimmy spent a lot of hours on this. I'm just going to say that I owe him a really big favor and not talk about exactly what this was so he doesn't get blamed if that person comes back at him. So, yeah, I'm trying to hook Jimmy up with a new streaming rig because we tried to do the live stream a month ago and it died in 5 minutes.
Oh yeah,
there for that one?
Yeah, his laptop like overheated or something.
Yeah, and then he scared me about Japanese computer import laws. I was trying to send him a spare streaming computer, so I think I'm just going to meet up with him this summer and hand it off to him. But,
oh, okay.
So
well, let me know. Maybe we can work out. I'd be more than happy to help out, pitch in.
Oh yeah, you're going to load it up with CDI emulators so that you can experience it.
Well, I thought you were like gonna buy something for him. I'm like, I'll chip in.
No, I have a rig that I just did the video on the little small form factor PC. So
okay,
it'd be perfect for Jimmy. But I did, some of the import laws in Japan, you're not allowed to ship computers over because of, and it's import laws are always getting weirder and weirder. My friends in Germany, I think, have it. They might have it the worst. I sent like a $20 thing to a buddy of mine, and he had to pay like $50 in import taxes or something.
Actually, something similar happened. Genovi had put like a package together for one of our other friends, Stika, another underrated YouTuber. Sent up a bunch of stuff that's like hard to get in his country or whatever, and like it sat in customs forever. There were like additional fees, and it took like months for him to get it, and it ended up costing like a bunch of extra money. Like it's crazy, man.
Did you see the interview that just aired today?
The Pico interview? Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen it yet. Although even though I told them, hey, after work I'm going to watch it, but I forgot I had to do this after work.
He was man, I don't know how to say this. He was great. I mean, he's always a great. He makes great videos, good interviews, and all that stuff. But maybe I should just skip to the end because people are going to hate me for this anyway. If you listen to that interview with the CEO of Pico and still buy their products, you deserve to have your money thrown down the toilet. Ooh. I couldn't believe the answers to the questions, and then I couldn't believe the confidence and smugness of those answers. Like, Stika's putting them. Is that how you say it, by the way? Stika? Is that
Stika.
Yeah. I fuck every name up, but I screw Bob up, I'm sure. But he phrased things in a way that completely opened up the doors for Eli to talk about whatever in his way. And the way, like, the one that really drove me nuts was, well, what about complaints about a few of the things with improper plastic and the cases weren't good and things were misspelled, and he came back with. All companies have mistakes in their products, and if somebody wants a replacement, I've allowed you to, if you buy something else from the store and give me your order number, I'll send you a replacement for free. What in the flying fuck did you just say? So the thing that I paid for, I could only get if I now buy something else. The whole interview's like that. The whole interview is this person telling a story. Yikes. That now he's convincing other people, trying to convince other people that it's the truth. And that's every dealing I've had with this guy, by the way. That's the same person, when I called him out on a few things, passive-aggressively threatened to write a bad magazine article about me in his friend's magazine. And I'm like, I fucking triple dog dare you. Go right ahead. It'd be mean too, because it's just gonna send more people to the website and the channel, and it's just gonna expose how crappy that guy is. I couldn't believe it, and it's just, I don't know. Maybe I should cut this out. Maybe we should ask Stika if we should talk about this. But
Hey, dude, I'm sure Stika would love to talk about it. Actually, he'd probably be he's a guy that he's got like an interesting story because like English isn't his first language, obviously, and he's really like, I don't know, he covers like some really interesting topics that a lot of people would never have heard of, because they're native to his country or what have you. I don't know. I think he brings a really interesting perspective to a lot of things.
oh, absolutely.
He's another guy that I feel is really like underappreciated, underpromoted by YouTube. Even though like earlier I was like, listen, YouTube doesn't do the worst job in the world about.
He's actually one of the people I was referencing when I said I wasn't sure if I was going to throw any name under the bus, but it's funny because I've met, and a lot of my friends growing up, English wasn't their first language. In fact, many of my cousins learned how to speak English by swearing with other English-speaking people. So it's that weird, if you see somebody with an eyebrow that starts here, goes perfectly across and ends here, they're probably related to me somehow. And so I have a different perspective on people that don't speak the same language as somebody else. It's totally cool. It's not a thing with me at all.
Yeah. But his grammar though is pretty much perfect.
Perfect. But I do see the other side of that, in which there are people that are not confident enough to say, hey, English isn't or whatever language isn't my first language. So you get those people around other people that speak their language, and then somebody like Stika can just disarm the whole conversation and make everybody feel comfortable. And I like that a lot. I always, there was an interview that went up the other day that, retro gamers were into, where it's just like, man, it would have been so much more charming if you spoke your language, took the time to subtitle it, and then went from there. It's one of those things where anybody that has a problem with that doesn't matter anyway. It's kind of cool. Just be who you are. So I hate saying this out loud because it always sounds like I'm reading off of some really cheesy pamphlet, but like, I do like making sure that whatever I'm involved in, there is no language barrier, because that shouldn't ever have a bearing on anybody's on how you interpret somebody.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm sorry to jump around, but I just remembered something about the X-Band thing that I wanted to mention. So I just found out, actually, Joe Britt, the guy with the perfect Lego hair from the X-Band documentary, dude, he is a sweetheart. Actually, dude, all these guys from Catapult are sweet. I ended up... Nice. Dude, not only were the people in the video nice, but I ended up on like a big email thread with like, I want to say there's like 20 plus former Catapult employees, and there were, I think, only like 60 or so to begin with. So like a good chunk of them, this big email thread that like, they added me to it. Like I think Constantine, which is the gentleman with the gray hair in the video, that guy is fucking awesome. I mean, they're all awesome, but I talked to him for 3 hours. And I had told him, like, at the end of the video, he says, hey, you asked me for a 30-minute interview, and here I am 3 hours later. And it flew by, and, like, honestly, like, they were so passionate that I always, like I said earlier, because I loved X-Band so much, I wanted to take my time. I wanted to do it right. Mm-hmm. But I think because of how passionate they were, and they really drive home in the video, like, we wanted everything to be perfect. The fonts, they talk about all these little things. I was like, well, I have to, I'm not a professional, but I have to give as best possible attention to detail as I can, because they did that for me when, I got to use X-Band. So that's how I looked at it. But anyways, perfect Lego hair. Guy, he just sent an email to me the other day where he remembered that when the X-Band is connecting to the server, and it starts like flashing these lights, if you roll your eyes back like this at just the right the right speed, it'll actually like look like it says X-Band on the lights.
Really?
It was just like it was a random thing that they programmed into it. Just like there's so many like weird little things that they did. Like, I could have easily made a 2-hour video out of that, but I had to like be like, okay, people gotta watch this and be able to sit through it. But there were so many like little like tidbits like that. I mean, that wasn't mentioned in the video, but there were lots of other things that they had mentioned that I didn't include because it wasn't like pertinent to the overall story, but just like little details that stuff that they didn't have to do, you know?
So, do you have you considered starting a Patreon?
I do have a Patreon.
Oh, well, now I'm just the biggest douchebag on the planet. Fuck.
No. I just don't like I'll mention at the end of the video, hey, I have a Patreon, but I've actually been thinking about shutting it down because like I've been making videos so sporadically that I'm like feel bad.
So here's the thing. Now you're stuck with another thing before the first thing, but I have a very strong view on Patreon in that, or I shouldn't say the name, any support platform, in that if I like somebody's content, like that's why I sign up. And I realize that certain things take forever and certain things don't. And there is actually the new thing where you could have it where you only get a payout once you have a completed project. So I know a lot of hardware nerds that are like, they get caught in a problem, and so it takes 6 months, but when it's released, it's a big deal. Whatever. It kind of works for everybody now. So please do keep it up, and please mention it more. I think people that are fans of your stuff would love to just, whether it is only at the completion of a project, whether it is $1 a month or whatever, stuff like that, you know. Don't forget, it's important for the people that follow you as well. A lot of people have negative perceptions on these things, and you really shouldn't. But the point I was trying to make before I fucking sidetracked myself, stuff like this would be the perfect thing for Patreon content, in that fire up a camera. Just text me one day and be like, hey Bob, shut the fuck up, answer questions with me on the, don't talk about you for once, asshole, and then like, let's do this and have a conversation about something you want to talk about that was important to you about the X-Band video or whatever video you're working on. I think the people that subscribe to you really would love to see that, and the people that don't subscribe to a support platform wouldn't really care, respectfully. So yeah, that's kind of,
it's a good point,
platform for it. So maybe that's not don't put it on a second channel, or put it on any channel, I guess is the better way to say it. Leave it unlisted. Leave it for your support
just on Patreon.
And go from there. Because it just, stuff like this, like, I know a lot of people, and I mean, once again, no offense, I'm just being blunt, but I know a lot of people that would love your documentary, and that's it. They loved it, and they're done. Don't want it to end, but I know a lot of other people that want to hear all these behind-the-scenes things and want to hear the stories, and sorry. I didn't want to hear. There was actually a legit explosion the other morning, and I missed it by like 3 seconds. I grabbed my camera, and I'm hanging out, and it was a car fire and an explosion and everything right outside.
Jesus Christ!
Now, I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, so anybody who knows what that is knows that a car fire and an explosion is not enough to get out of bed for. Close your windows so the smoke don't get in, and you're fine. But yeah, seriously though, I mean, the behind the scenes stuff, and that was really like. I mean, that was the main reason I wanted to get you on, is just to talk about what we've been working on, just bounce our venting of making videos back and forth. Hopefully, people that maybe don't know who you are might watch this and now watch some of your stuff. But I really think that's awesome, and that's something that I would love. I mean, I would drop a Patreon subscription just for your content, but the fact that there might be behind the scenes stuff like this too would be really appreciated. So,
no, you're 100% right. No, that's really good advice, actually.
And the only other, this is now, so now there's three advices I'll give you. Anybody that ever shits on a support platform, block immediately and ignore everything that they have to say, because those are just people that are jealous that they can't do what you can do. And
I have noticed that there's been a few YouTube channels that have popped up like bitching about people e-begging or whatever.
E-begging, yeah. So I've been told that myself a bunch of times.
Yeah, but it's like no one's forcing anyone to do anything with their money, and the way I look at it, there's like I'm a Patreon of a lot of YouTube channels.
Me too.
LGR was the first one I signed up for, and the main reason was damn, I've watched a shit ton of his videos. I really appreciate it. I want him to keep making these videos. Let me throw him a few bucks a month. I've watched, I guarantee you, more hours of LGR than I have of Netflix. You know, well, I don't know. I've watched TNG a couple times over on there, so maybe not. But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, 100%.
original first run stuff, man. Yeah. So it's weird. I try not to push it. I mean, I know some people. I don't mind it when I see a YouTube video and somebody does like a 5 second blurb at the beginning where they're like, "Hey, if you like the video, I have a Patreon." I don't really mind that, but I know some people do.
I always try to stick mine at the end.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I leave it at the end more because like I just want
If you've
things
stayed
to
to
flow.
the end, you might be interested anyway. Whereas if
Right.
you clicked off the video before the end, you were never going to want to support me anyway. So
Right.
respect on both ends.
Exactly. And I also look at it as like, well, if you didn't stick through to the end, I did something wrong. And you know, sometimes people are just not going to be interested. But
Yeah.
I always try to think like when I look at my watch time on some videos, I'll be like, okay, what? And maybe it's because I work in analytics. I'm like, okay, what did I do here? Was it the way I had? How was I talking up to that point? And like even the way now, like I deliver like my voiceovers is different from the way I used to. And I'm like, okay, what kind of music was I using? Like what was I doing that made somebody want to stop watching? I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, hey, it was a bad topic or whatever. You know, there was a way to make it interesting. But yeah, man, like I just I'm with you. I think Patreon's great. I don't push it very much. I'm sure if I was trying to make a run at having this be my living, which maybe in 2 or 3 years, you know, maybe I'll try that. But right now I'm not. You know, I'm sure I would be like pushing a little bit more. But I I don't know. I think it's weird when people complain about it. I like.
You know, so, all right. How can I word this without calling anybody out? Anytime somebody makes something for free and then has a support platform and you choose to support them, everybody else could shut the fuck up. It's free. If you don't want to pay, don't pay.
I like
If
how
you
you're
wanna
like,
support
how
them,
can I
support.
say this? Everybody shut the fuck up.
But the other side, here's why I was hesitating. There was a company recently that is known. I mean, it's in the tech world, so there's lots of companies that are terrible at customer service in the tech world. It's just the nature of things. But they're terrible at customer service. And their original backers, I don't know if it was Kickstarter or something, are still getting neglected because it didn't fall in the same serial number scheme. So the people that forked up the most money the earliest can't get any updates. Started a Patreon to help them with the next project, and it lasted, I swear to you, it lasted 40 minutes before they took it down.
Damn.
And I am 100% okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that
is
too.
the opposite. You sell stuff for a living. You're not good at dealing with the customers that have already paid you, and now you're asking for support to make the next thing that you're probably going to continue to be shit at supporting. No, Patreon's not for you. You should just.
Yeah, you probably
In
not.
fact, you should go back
Being
to
in
not
business
ever
might not
talking to
be
people
good.
ever. Have other people talk for
Yeah.
you. Hand over the reins of your Twitter account to people that know what other people might like. So yeah.
So let me ask you something. And I know we've been going for a while. Like, if you have something to do, let me know. Well, actually, I see you poured yourself a new drink, so you're good.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you drinking? Oh, wine.
So I haven't had a run to the liquor store. So since we've started, I started with absinthe. Then I did a shot of Fireball. Then I chugged a.
You had the
24
Modelo that you started with. Yeah, you had the Modelo.
And now I'm about to kill a bottle of white wine. So,
Oh,
you know,
great! So you're
I'm
gonna
an equal
feel
opportunity person right here.
your brain is gonna feel amazing tomorrow. As it's
I'm going to wake up clear-eyed with so much energy.
I
I don't know how I function. I should be dead. If you saw the size of my man titties, you'd give me 3 days to live. Yeah, I could walk across Manhattan. All my gym rat friends, let's go do CrossFit and flip over some tires. Fuck you, walk around Manhattan with me. None of them can do it. They're all in a cab halfway through the day. But yeah, I don't know.
But you know what? I believe it though, because like in pro wrestling, there's a thing called like being in ring shape and cardio shape. So we have like lots of guys that would like be like they'd come to wrestling school and they're like long distance runners or whatever. Their cardio is great, but in the ring, they get like blown up, they get gassed out, because it's different for when you're losing your breath from running than you're losing your breath because somebody slammed you down and now all of your breath has been taken out of your lungs. However, could I go run a marathon? Absolutely not. So
Well,
I get where you're coming from, man. Those
I
guys
can
probably have
promise
like,
you that I'm neither in rig shape or cardio shape. But I have been picked up and slammed down and lost all my breath, and I got up, threw a punch, and then ran the fuck away. Because
there you go. But yeah, dude, I don't know. Like, one of the reasons why like I took that year off from drinking was because I got to the point where if I had like 2 or 3 beers, I would wake up hungover. Like, my body, yeah, it was crazy. Like, now I can like I'll drink like maybe like once a week. This is weird. I'm drinking. This is the second time this week. Because I got drunk playing the Oregon Trail with Jimmy Hoppa.
Nice.
But yeah. No, there was a.
Everybody's body chemistry is different. I never judge. I had a buddy, Dave, who was a guitarist in a band. He looked like Dimebag Darrell, but with like light blonde hair, not dark hair, but the same thing. And I walk up to a gig one time, and he's smoking a joint that looked like something out of a Cheech and Chong movie. And he's a hugger. Hey, what's up, Bob? Gives me a big hug. Hey, man, you want a hit? I'm like, no. No, I don't. If I hit one hit off of that, I'm going to be watching Avatar with my 3D glasses on, watching the blue people fuck in the woods. Like, we get inside. We opened for them because they drew a way bigger crowd at the time. And, I'm 5 beers deep, and we're doing a shot of Jaeger. I'm like, hey, man, you want to do a shot? And he looks at me. He looks at me like I just spit on his mom. Like, a shot? Before I go on stage? Like, Dave, you just smoked enough weed to kill everyone in this room. What are you talking about, a shot before you go on stage?
Yeah.
That was him. One shot, it would have killed him. But that entire joint of awesomeness didn't affect him in the slightest. So I never judge anymore. Everybody's body chemistry is different. Whatever.
It's funny, man. So this is a little bit. You know what's funny is, like, when I went to go refill my drink and pee, I was like, okay, these are like 5 things about X Band like I wanna bring up or whatever that I did, and now I can't even fucking think of them.
Who were the people that were just the players? That was the question I kept forgetting to ask since I hit record. Who are the people that were in your interview that were just like the fans?
Oh, okay, the users. So there's an X Band group on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And after I cut together like the trailer for it, and a lot of people like give me shit. It's weird. Not a lot of people, but anytime I put up a trailer for like an upcoming video, people are always like, "Oh, why are you putting up a trailer? I want the whole video." Which I mean, I kind of get, but the reason why I do it is because I always reach out to people, whether they were people directly involved with it or people that use it to like, get their experience with it, get their input, because I think that's important. So it helps if I have something to show them, right? Not just say, I'm making a video. If I say, hey, here's a little trailer I made, so it gives them an idea of the level of professionalism that I'm at least going to take with the editing, right? Mm-hmm. So anyways, I'm sorry, I'm so long-winded. I make the trailer, and I posted it on the X-Band Facebook group that Tommy, that guy, he's an administrator of. So I said at the end of it, I'm like, hey, if anybody used the X-Band, let me know. I want to hear your take on it. And I had a lot more than the 4 people in it reach out. But these were kind of like the 4 guys that I felt like kind of like, there was the one guy that was like, hey, I had problems with latency with this stuff. There was the one guy that was like, man, it was like super life-changing for me. I was in a low spot. It kind of like got a little bit of everything.
Added to the storyline.
Right.
Everybody's
and I felt
story
like
added to it, yeah.
Right, and I, in the video, I don't go into my story with X-Band. Because of my own experience with X-Band, even though I was going to include my own experience, I knew it was a product that would get like deeply personal feelings from people. People were either going to love it or hate it, and I knew most people were going to love it, even the ones that had like a few complaints about it. And I knew it's so unique because, especially for the time, depending on what state you were and who you had like around you playing in your like players area and your connection, all this and that, one person could have like a great connection playing one game. This next person could have a terrible connection playing the same game, which it worked out, right? With 2 guys, like in the video, I have like 2 guys talking about MK3. One guy's like, oh, it was the worst. It was all lagging. And the next guy's like, oh, MK3 was perfect. I couldn't believe how great it was.
As he lives across the street from the phone company.
Right,
Perfect.
right. So it was just like this thing because I didn't want it to seem like I was just like there's a lot of good things to say about Expand, and I didn't want it to make it seem like it's all good. So I wanted to kind of capture everything, and I could, and part of the reason why during this interview I kind of avoided talking about Expand. I could talk about Expand for hours, man. Like I was blown away by it as a kid. I couldn't believe it. It was a thing. Like I remember thinking when I was playing it, and my buddy that I played a lot with, we were just like, this is like the future of games. Like,
You were right.
and we didn't think like about like the kind of multiplayer networks that we see today. We just thought like all games in the future are going to use Expand. That's kind of like what we were thinking, right? Because we were like, this is so amazing. But it was one of those things where like I remember, dude, as a kid explaining it to people. It was hard even with other kids sometimes like they just didn't get it. Like it's so foreign to be like, yeah, you use it and you can play people like across the country whatever, and they're like, well, what do you mean you play them across the country? Like when do they show up to your house? Like that kind of stuff. Like and one thing that I don't mention in the video is, so I played Expand all the time. I didn't have Expand. One of my best friends did, so I was at his house all the fucking time. And I tried explaining it to my parents. And my mom was one of the ones that's like, well, why would you call some stranger to come over here to play games? And I was like, no, Mom, they're not. It isn't going to be some random coming over here to play video games. She's like, I don't want any strangers here. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
So the one thing that struck me, anytime you talk about something that like you enjoy but also has a personal connection, you always bring yourself to that moment in your life where that affected you.
Sure.
I remember the X-Band, and I remember being thrilled about this because I'm like, that means that I could play my cousin Scott in all of our Super Nintendo games at any time. And then we found out that because he lived 3 towns away, because for all you kids out there, if you lived more than a mile away, you'd have to pay money to call them. But yeah, it would be on the hourly or the minute charge.
Right, the long distance charge, yeah.
Plus the $20 a month or $30 a month.
Well, $10 for unlimited.
Right. So,
but $10 in like 1992 money or whatever, 1994 money.
Right. And I distinctly remember my weird scheming self, like, how am I going to get $10 a month? So that's like X amount of lawns plus amount of money I would have to make in order to get video games. So I would have to be mowing lawns 4 nights a week, and I'd have to find, so yeah, it was a little unfathomable for poor little me. But
so, dude, let me tell you what you could have done. Mm-hmm. I didn't interview them, but a few people reached out to me telling me that they wrote to Catapult, the people that made Expand, telling them that they couldn't afford it, but if they sent them, if they let them log in, they would buy the modem. If they let them log in, they would tell all their friends about it, and Expand gave them like free logins.
So, but that's the thing. It was the modem seemed reasonably priced.
Yeah,
and
$20.
The monthly fee seemed reasonably priced.
Right.
But spending 2 hours a night calling Cousin Scott to play video games did not seem...
No.
That was the problem.
And it would have tied up your phone line. Your parents probably wanted to make phone calls,
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where you're a scheming little kid. So you're like, if I just, if I pretend like I'm asleep and I wake up at 11 p.m. and, no one will know.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Knew, but, you think they didn't know. And, yeah, but... No, that was the only reason why. It was because of the long distance calling. And
yeah.
I think, especially after watching that video, I think that's the killer. It was too early for its time. It was before broadband.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine today, right now, 2019, if somebody says, but you need to be online the whole time to use it? Like, you'd laugh at them. Like, fucking of course.
Yeah,
my router's online all the time. That's why I have it plugged in. Like, what's wrong with you? So,
but what's funny is like, and you're 100% right. Like, it just came at the wrong time. It was both. That's why towards the end, I say it was both too far ahead of its time and too early. Right? Like, it was too far ahead of its time in terms of like people didn't understand it. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get parents, buying on it. Nobody people barely understand the internet. Everyone's scared of strangers on the internet, like abducting their kids or whatever. And then also it's like at the end of the life cycle for the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Like the timing is just awful, right? But it part of the reason why X-Band worked as well as it did though was because it wasn't on broadband. Because there's an additional latency there. And the problem with broadband, and it's what Retro.live has ran into as an issue, is that the latency is more unpredictable over modern internet. So even though it's technically faster in terms of how fast you can get a large clump of data, there can be more latency technically.
Connecting between 2 points. Yeah, there's a company called Parsec, who is if you research them, if you watch the interview I did with the CEO,
I've used Parsec Gaming, yeah.
Yeah, you might think like, oh, but that's kind of the same as a lot of what other people are doing. What they're doing is a little different and a little bit cooler, but at the end of the day, the max or the minimum that they could possibly get is about 15 milliseconds, which means on your best possible scenario, you're talking about 1 frame of lag. So a modern game, that doesn't mean shit, but if you're talking about retro, that's a big deal because you know, if it's a variable, maybe it's 1 frame this time, maybe it's 3 frames next time, that's going to make certain, like you can't have a Street Fighter tournament on that.
Right.
So but the things that they're doing are pretty incredible, and they're making a lot of things possible that you wouldn't think would be able to work.
I played Super Bomberman, the Super Famicom version over Parsec Gaming actually a few months ago. It worked really well. I was really impressed.
Really? How long ago?
About a month and a maybe. No, the X-Band video wasn't out yet, so it had to be like 2 to 3 months ago.
It still might be in. So I'm not sure which parts I'm supposed to or not supposed to talk about, but they're working on things. And depending on what you're using, that might have been the new thing they're working on, which might actually achieve like less than 1 frame of lag.
So it might have been because it wasn't on my stream. It was on a now I don't want to say too much about it. It was on a game developer's stream. Yeah. So maybe they have like a special
I'll text Jamie after this and be like, am I supposed to have talked about that? Was that a thing? Am I not supposed to talk about this? Yeah, it's just I love what they're doing. And I love, you know, it's funny too, because when I did the interview, I don't think Benji knew who I was. So he's being a CEO. He's being the CEO he should be, right? You know, very public presentable, has the right answer to everything. And Chris, the tech, all the time you could see, like, whenever you see him look up into a different direction, you could hear the gears in his brain turning. And he has all this amazing knowledge, and Benji's like, are we supposed to be fucking telling people that? Like, so I loved that interview, but I don't know, that might have been way cooler to be there in person than to watch it, so I apologize to anybody who watched that one, but yeah, I love that company, I love what they're doing, and that's one of those that as long as they're still able to progress, 3 or 4 years from now, everybody's going to know who they are.
I agree.
It's going to be just ingrained into or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll get bought out and you won't even know that you're using Parsec technology.
Parsec technology, yeah. Because I remember when I played Super Bomberman a few months ago, and like I said, it worked awesome. Like there was no perceptible lag. I'm sure there really was obviously some lag, but I remember maybe like 6 months before that, I played Jones in the Fast Lane, which is like a very simple like PC game, old PC game, turn-based, 1 person at a time, and I could tell there was lag on that. So yeah, there's definitely been some improvements to say the least.
Absolutely,
and good for them.
It's funny, too, because you talk about the things they're doing, and you talk about some of these, like, for streaming, by the way, like you joked about plugging the composite video into your composite to HDMI. For streaming, that's absolutely the most cost-effective way to do it. Do it that way, without a doubt. But if you ever try playing that on a flat-screen TV, you have the lag of that device, you have the lag of your TV, and then if you're using emulation, you have that lag. So you're at that point talking like half a second, which is very perceptible by a human. Like, you don't even have to be a gamer. You could just be a passerby and be like, fuck's up with that? Like,
that's how when I stream the CDI, I'm almost half a second behind, like, playing because of that.
Once again, though, for streaming, by all means, go right ahead. That's totally cool, but it's funny to see that. So the fact that they're doing that over the internet at less of a lag than your average scaler is incredible. I love that too.
It's pretty insane, man. And yeah, and think about like X-Band, like people like are like, dude, I've had people in the comments say like X-Band's not real, 2400 baud modem, and they don't understand like it's a peer-to-peer connection, it's uncompressed. You're sending button presses. It's nothing. You're sending almost nothing. It's more about keeping things synced. Like that's where the magic really happens because you're not sending a ton of data.
Well, I mean, this is, I love the whole thing, but, I love the people side of things, but when they nerded out and talked about why they needed to go to the lower speed modem because they didn't have to use the compression algorithm, which means they didn't have to use the CPU cycles to use the compression algorithm, like, I love that shit. It's
Oh, dude, there's a great story I left out of the X-Band video. I'll share this real quick. So, the company that was making the modem chip for them, they changed something. I can't remember if it was with its firmware or something, but they changed something where they use them. They kept the same model number. So as far as Catapult knew, there was no change. Then people get X-Band and they're like, hey, this isn't working. It works fine to log in, get my emails, do all that stuff. But when I go to play with somebody, it doesn't work. They're like, what the hell's going on? So they figure out it's a certain batch of modems. One of the things that I don't mention in the video is like X-Bands actually sent diagnostic info back to Catapult. So they could actually, a lot of times they caught problems that people didn't even know were happening. So they did all kinds of like revolutionary stuff. But anyways, so they would switch off the compression when somebody was in gameplay. So they find out like this company made this change and now they can't do it. They're like, what the hell? So Catapult was able to fix it by sending a firmware update to X-Band modems, and people don't even know that this happened. They just like one day they woke up their modems didn't work, one day the next day it worked, and they had like no idea. So like I don't know, man. They just did like so many cool things that were ahead of their time.
I'm smiling because that's what I did for years was IT stuff. And it always made me smile when I found a problem before the customer did. And then the way that I told them was explaining how I fixed the problem they didn't even know they had. And I love that. And that stems from all that stuff. That stems from forward-thinking people back then that did all that. Yeah. So
another cool little tidbit that I didn't mention in the video is, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but you'll get the gist of it. So basically, so they built a TCP/IP protocol for X-Band to use because there were some plans for some additional internet connectivity stuff, and that's all that they would want me to get into. But anyways, I guess like part of that TCP/IP protocol ended up going to the first series of iPhones. So yeah, it was crazy. Like, and then like there's technology I touched on it earlier from X-Band that ended up going into like WebOS, and there were some things that were like initially kind of being worked on with the idea of it going to X-Band that ended up in like other products. I'm sorry I'm being so vague, but one of the conditions of like the interviews I did and why I haven't released like the full interviews for these people is like, and I totally get why they wanted to like see anything before it went out, because they told me a lot of stuff off the record that they made clear was off the record, and some of the stuff was kind of like, hey, I'm going to give you some additional information to give you context around stuff, but I don't necessarily want it in there. And to be fair, when I sent these guys from Catapult the video, they didn't ask for anything to be cut out, which I was really surprised about. Because I was like, surely there's something in here I put in here that they didn't really want me to go into. Because, I talk about like the guy from Rocket Science Games, like giving them like, some of their software and stuff, So I mean, they were all like super cool. I
imagine if this aired in 1999, you'd probably have
it'd be a little different
response than now, but whatever. Right?
It'd be a little different. Yeah. But I heard from some people that like, I won't name names, but people that helped Catapult, maybe in some ways that their employer at the time wouldn't have been so proud of, like they were happy that like, to hear that like, oh, that little tidbit got included or whatever. Dude, Steve Wozniak has been sharing the video apparently.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Like he's got some mailing list, I guess, and like he's been like with industry people, he's been sharing it with them, which is really cool.
That's what I'm talking about. Good content, right? That's a great fucking story.
Although he does start off the email with somebody's forwarded me a copy of it, like, this is a bit long, but but I think he was just like saying like, hey, just watch it.
All right, Waz. So was every appearance with you and Kathy Griffin in public. So
Hey,
if
whatever.
we can fucking suffer through that,
I love the laws, man.
take a deep breath. But so I gotta ask you though. You said something before that kind of I don't know. I would like to elaborate on. I guess. But you said how you try to be unbiased, but at the same time, like the love for these things, or at least maybe not the love every time, but the impact the stuff that you talk about had on your life is evident in all your videos. Right. Like, I mean, maybe this is one of those supporter platform things, but I would kind of also like to hear the other side of that as well. And when I say that, I'm not trying to say any of your documentaries should have been different. I just... Like, what are I guess the question I'll ask now and for this interview is, what are the things that had the most effect on you? And also, like, why wouldn't you want to put more of that in your videos?
So, we talked a little bit earlier about, like, trying to make videos that are, like, timeless or, time-proof or whatever. I feel like leaving my opinion helps with that. Leaving my opinion out helps with that because I'm presenting the facts of what happened. And I think there's something to letting the audience make up their own mind with just the facts as presented. Like, for example, like I love, and even when I'm covering like an absolute failure, I always try to remember, people work, like human beings worked on this, right? People that, okay, maybe not every person that worked on the Power Glove was like passionate about the Power Glove, but certainly the guys that were like, hey, how can we take this thing that NASA uses that costs $70,000? How can we bring it down to like something that will only cost, like 50, 60 bucks? Like that took a lot of work. That took a lot of time. That took, months out of somebody's life. So I try to think of it that way. And I wouldn't say I don't want to say I try to put a positive spin on things, but I if I'm covering a failure, if I'm covering a failure, people are already going to come in with a negative connotation to it. I'm covering the Power Glove. I mean, the Power Glove's not great unless you want to spend a shit ton of time calibrating it and you're playing like 2 specific games with it, right? So, okay, why would I delve into that? Like, yeah, I had a shitty time with it too when I was 10 years old. Who the fuck didn't, Let's talk about the positives of it. Like, dude, this was ambitious as hell. Did they succeed? No. Does it change how ambitious they were? Does it change like the fact that it inspired people to make something like this, which my next video is on, the Reality Quest glove. I don't know why they named it the glove. People are going to compare it to the Power Glove.
Right.
Real dumb. But it actually works. And if you're playing, I don't know if you've ever used it, but if you're playing like racing games with it, I prefer playing racing games with that than a regular controller. And a lot of people don't know that with this, whether it's the N64 or the PlayStation version of it, one of the things it has is called simulated analog mode. It'll take any game that's designed for digital only input and it'll make it work like an analog control.
Really?
Yeah, like that's fucking crazy, right?
I wonder how it does it. So it takes your position, like if you're driving, it takes your position and then pulls the controller so it presses the signal X amount of times versus how many. Yeah, that's. Wow, yeah, I would love now I'm going to wait for your video. No spoilers, but I'd love the technical explanation.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I've had a hard time, like, even though there's a million patents about it, I've been reaching out to the guys that made it. It was 2 brothers that made it to try and get some answer back because their patent's a little vague on exactly how it works. From what I've kind of gathered, it seems like basically you could have always made any game on the N64, the PS1, like work as an analog game. So it seems like the glove, like these controllers are tapping into that and like somehow superseding that. That's kind of the impression I'm getting, but I'm going to try and get with them. But dude, it's crazy. There's literally a switch on, this one's actually hard to see, but on this one, there's like a little switch for like, I probably can't tell, but this one for like digital, simulated, and then analog. And you literally flip it to that, and I haven't run into a single game that it doesn't work on.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure there is, but
Yeah.
it's crazy, dude. Now this is all hard plastic. After a while, it gets pretty uncomfortable, and I don't recommend playing like platformers on it where you're like doing this because your wrist is like the directional pad basically. So do I want to do this for like an hour playing or two playing a game? No, of
Well,
course.
Jimmy Hoffa would, but
Well, he does that for other things. But, if I'm playing a driving game, do that or whatever.
No,
And actually, for fighting
100%.
games, they work really well.
Really?
Again, I wouldn't. Yeah, because you can set it so like it responds to like really. You can set like how quickly it responds to your wrist. So you can set it to be real tight where you just like.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's underrated. But anyways, your question was about like my opinion and trying not to interject it and why I don't interject it.
You were pretty clear about that. Like I now have a clearer opinion of how you approach them. But like, what were the things growing up that really made a mark on you then?
Digital pictures, man. That was a big one. I loved digital pictures, and I actually wrote like a paragraph in that original script about like my personal feelings about digital pictures games, and I love FMV to this day. But then I cut it out because I'm like, no, this comes off like real weird.
You played Ground Zero Texas, right?
Yeah,
When was the last time you played it?
about a year and a half ago, I streamed it.
So the
Listen.
last time I played it was 20 years ago, and then a week ago or 2 weeks ago for the Mega SD video, and I immediately hated it.
It's not a good example.
I genuinely wished that I'd never played it again because all of my memories as a kid were like, look at this new thing. There's people, but like it's a video game with real people, and now playing it, it's like this is a giant piece of shit.
But Ground Zero Texas was, if I'm not mistaken, an American Laser Games game. Mm-hmm. All their games are kind of the same. Yeah. Space Pirates I like because it's kind of like fun because it's so campy.
I don't think I ever played that one. But.
So it's just like Ground Zero Texas. Everybody you shoot in the same order. At least like if you're playing Corpse Killer, they come. You can shoot like multiple at once. You can choose which order you shoot people in or zombies in or whatever. I don't know. Like I appreciated, I guess, the audacity of like Tom Zito and Digital Pictures to be like, we're gonna combine gameplay with fucking video, and this is gonna be the wave of the future. And I don't know, man. Like that was one of them.
I agree. Getting a Sega CD and playing those games made such a mark on my childhood. Like, this is incredible. I can't believe I'm doing this. And some of them hold up for campy reasons. Some of them hold up because they're decent, and some of them are Ground Zero Texas.
Yeah, dude. FMV is like feast or famine, basically. Mm-hmm. Like you either have like a great game. I shouldn't say a great game. What you usually have is like a decent game from a gameplay perspective that like is enhanced by the FMV. Mm-hmm. I've never played like an FMV game where like, wow, the gameplay was so great, but like in conjunction, right? It can make a great game. Or you just have like shit gameplay and then FMV, which can't save shit gameplay, But X-Band obviously was another one that I was like a real big fan of. I have a soft spot for the 3DO. I'm a big fan of Trip Hawkins in particular. I think he's like a really interesting guy, and it's really interesting. I go into it a little bit in the video on the 3DO where he talks about how he's disappointed in like modern day EA. Mm-hmm. He's just a real interesting guy, and he's done like a lot of like charitable stuff that I really admire. Those are probably like the biggest ones. I was always a huge fan of Rare, and I'm really sad in what they've turned into. And at the end of my 3 video series on Rare, it was before Sea of Thieves had come out, and it looked like it was Rare returning to form. Like I don't know if you've played Sea of Thieves, but it's not that great in my opinion. And most people don't seem to like it. So, but in that one, I was like at the end, like real hopeful about Sea of Thieves.
When they did Donkey Kong Country, that was, I mean, that changed the game for everything.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole gaming world was like, well, shit, this is what we have to compete against now. Like,
I remember thinking because that was towards the '94, almost towards the end of the Nintendo life cycle, right? Because Nintendo 64 comes out in '96. Mm-hmm. It's actually 94, same year X-Band came out, and it failed partly because it was towards the end of it. But I remember, dude, I got the fucking VHS in the mail because I was a Nintendo Power subscriber, and I was like, I don't even have to get the next gen system. Look what the Super Nintendo can do. That's literally what I thought as a kid.
I can't remember if I told this in the last interview, but it's such a moment in my childhood. But I remember going into a Funko Land where I sort of knew one of the guys that worked there because he was known that like he'll buy Master System games, and no one in like the Northeast, like most people didn't know what that was. And I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden, I mean, he's a kid too, so I'm 11 and he's like 16, so he's still an adult to me, but like we're both kids, and he's like the drug dealer with something in his pocket. He's like, look what I got. And he whips out a sealed copy of Donkey Kong Country 2 months before it was released. I went, where did you get that? And he goes, I bought 2. Her dad works for Nintendo, but she has a Genesis, so she wanted to trade him in, and we couldn't trade him in because it's not a real game yet, so I just bought them both. I'm like,
that's awesome.
I got dibs on the other one. What do you want for it? And my mom was there, and she had no idea what was going on, but she knew it was important. She felt it. She felt the moment, so she was just like, here's your fucking $30. Like
$30 is a bargain.
No, I traded him a bunch of shit plus $30, so it was like it was full price. But I got it like at least 2 months before it was released, and I was just like I was blown away by the entire scenario.
Dude, I'm jealous now of you for some reason. I can play it now. I still have my fucking VHS, and I'm jealous of you.
I remember beating it and telling people at school, and they're like, "You're a fucking liar," and I'm like, "Oh, that's my one thing I hate when people call me." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna bring it in tomorrow." Like, it's not out for another 3 weeks. I'm like, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow." And I brought it in, everything. I'm just like, "Here you go. You can all go fuck yourself."
Dude, I remember like my parents have never been into video games. They don't give a shit. But I remember I dragged them into my room to watch me play that game. And I think I like talked my grandparents into buying it for me because like I didn't have the money and it wasn't like my birthday or anything, and I don't know, I must have whined or something. But anyways, I get the game. It's amazing, right? Especially like if you're playing on a CRT TV, you know, it kind of covers up, you know, some of the maybe. If you play it like on a modern day TV, it doesn't like hold up quite as well. I feel like if you play it on a CRT TV, it looks amazing, right? Mm-hmm. And even I remember them coming in and going, "Oh my god, wow, this looks amazing." My dad says this looks so real, even though it's like cartoonish. Like,
that's funny. All right, so we are one drink refill break, one Skype broke on us break, and then one pee break. So I feel like this is even. I feel like this has come full.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I feel nothing because I've been drinking so much, but
I feel pretty.
You are pretty. So one of the things I talk about in the X-Band video, or not me, but the guys from Catapult talk about, is the cryo bombs, right? Where they like set off these like hydrogen like explosions or whatever to like screw with each other. So it was there were like 3 of those stories. I just only put one of them in the video, but like there's another one where like they set off like they figured out a way to like double the explosive power of them, and they set one on a chair like on the rooftop. I'm drinking, so if anyone from Catapult is watching this and I'm getting the details incorrect, I apologize. I'm sure you understand. But the gist of it was they had like set it on a chair, and they lit it or set it off or whatever, and then they all like went away from it, right? Mm-hmm. And then it, boom, makes this big explosion. The chair goes across like the roof or whatever to the other end of the roof. You know, they're all high-fiving, this and that, and they start walking towards it, and then they're like, "Oh my god, only one of them went off."
Oh shit.
And like they're both like double potency. Oh, I remember what they did. They put them in something to cool down the overall temperature of it. So it would let like the hydrogen like have almost twice as much room to expand or something. I don't remember, but it was gonna be about twice as much. So they're like, "Oh shit!" So they all like run away from it, and you know, they're like waiting for it to go off, and it's not going off, and they end up having to call like the fire department. And this is like on a weekend. Otherwise, like they would have been really screwed with whoever owned the building or whatever. And basically, like that was the end of the hydrogen things. Like the next day, like Perlman, that was the guy whose name I was trying to remember earlier. One of the co-inventors of the original X-Band prototype, who like went on to like create WebOS and all that stuff and On Live. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he was like, people could have died, like blah blah blah, and that was pretty much the end of the cryo bombs. But apparently, there were like a bunch of of cryo bombs. There's another great story where if you look at the source code, there's some of it out there for like expand stuff. You know, like if anybody who's ever done programming, you can write stuff, right? You can like write notes in there, and there's like a lot of like cursing, a lot of like things, like a lot of inside jokes, like all good natured, all in good fun, right? Well, that's the kind of office they ran, you know. And at one point, somebody had like taken like tape, like duct tape or something like that, on a beam that was on a ceiling, like written the word "fuck" up there, right? Well, unbeknownst to everybody else, board members were coming in because there were like investors from Viacom and CBS, like all these companies that were coming in for a big meeting that next day. And Perlman or somebody, like one of the like kind of head honchos, walks in. He looks up. He's like, "What the hell? You guys can't just have the word fuck written up there." He's like, "You guys got to take that down." So okay, they go to take the tape off. It peeled back the paint. So it left fuck up there permanently.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I guess they had to, like, as soon as people walked in, like, route them to the conference room, like, real quick. And be like, no, don't look up
stories
there.
like that. The cryo bomb story, I laughed out loud when I listened to it. It's funny that you told me that one because with a bunch of nerds, like I would have blown something else up on that. I totally would have just like, all right, time bomb. Like,
well,
the double explosion.
You know, I think they like the unpredictability of it. And the funny thing is, like, that, if I'm remembering what I was told, right, Perlman, you know, the guy that in the X-Men video, the guy whose house they like set the cryo bomb off of, he was kind of the guy that brought cryo bombs into the fold. So it was all like his idea. So, you know, they're just like a bunch of like young dudes. Like, think about it, if you're like in your early 20s, early to mid 20s, maybe late 20s at the most, and you just helped build Mac OS. Mm-hmm. You just helped build Mac OS. You're smart as fuck. But, you know, you're also like a young dude full of testosterone in your 20s. And, you know, because these guys could have kept working it out. Even though Apple wasn't doing that great at the time, they were all earning a great living. Mm-hmm. And like the CEO that ended up coming over and all these people, they all came from like Sony and THQ, you know, companies where they were already doing well, but they all believed in like this product. But they're also young and crazy, you know. So it's just amazing. Like, they like played as hard as they worked, you know. And it comes off like, man, when you like see it, like there's a lot of like 90s attitude, for lack of a better term, like in the way the icons animate, like all this like extra shit they didn't need to do. Like when you log into like Xpander, you start it up, the A flips around like in this 3D thing that they obviously had to do something similar to what like they did for Donkey Kong Country, mm-hmm. because it's definitely CGI and it's super smooth. Literally every frame they like did. I don't talk about it in the video, but like the thing with multiple profiles, that was added a few weeks before it went to market. Like,
yeah. But you talked about that a little bit in the documentary, but...
Oh, do I mention? Okay.
99% sure, because it was the attention to the font as well as the animations was definitely something that you talked about.
That's in there. I mean the multiple profiles. Being able to have 4 different profiles. I don't think I talk about...
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think of that one, but...
Somebody from marketing was like, hey, you know, they were doing some, obviously, like market testing, mm-hmm. or whatever, and they're like, hey, we need to have make it so people can like choose multiple profiles. And they were like, what? We're about to release. You know, we're about to go to manufacturing. We don't have time for this. And then Khan, the guy in the video with the gray hair, he's like, wait a minute, I can just make a tweak to the database to do this without using any extra memory. And he came up with like this like real crazy way to do it, like in one day. Like, it's awesome.
So there was a quote, and it was like a famous quote from a famous inventor, and I never remember it. It's one of those things where like I'll be laying in bed later and I'll remember it word for word, and then I'll wake up tomorrow and not remember it. But it was basically like, it was a quote that was around the concept of if you have a small box to play in and you're forced to focus everything you've got on this, you know, mm-hmm. so many good things can come out of it. Whereas if you take that same person and say, do whatever you want, nothing will ever get done because there's so many different opportunities. So it's like, if this is the sandbox you have to play in and this is the tools you have, like that scene in Apollo 13 where like, here's everything in Apollo 13 right now, let's make this spaceship get home. Like, people just find ways to make shit happen.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and those guys, they're the cream of the crop. There's a reason why they went on to create Android and OnLive and WebOS, and not all of those things were successful, obviously, but they were still like revolutionary, and they like built. I mean, just now like Google, is having like a gaming streaming thing, and like one of the guys from OnLive had that idea way back. That was an idea he had when X-Band was like in market. He just knew it wasn't the time for it. And well, I guess it wasn't the time for it either when it was around when he did it. But the point is, like, these guys were like visionaries, and they have this attitude of like, fuck it, why not? Like, it's kind of like their attitude. Like, and I think Constantine says at one point in the documentary, I know he definitely said during our interview, he said something like, yeah, we were like we would be trying to do all these things like anti-alias fonts on a Super Nintendo Sega Genesis. Why? I love it. I fucking love it. And he's like, why not do it? Like, don't you want something you want to be proud of? And here he is, like 20 something years later. And I can tell you, like, I appreciate it so much that you shared the video, even though you did it by mocking me and impersonating me doing this. How dare you? I'm mocking my beautiful hair, sir.
I do not think that you have done anything
dude,
wrong whatsoever.
I knew I was doing it. Like while I was filming, but I was like, it's better than this weird fist. It was the better of two evils. But anyways, like he says in the video, like, what do you want something that you're proud of? And here he is, like 20 some odd years later, proud as hell to be talking about it. And I know that, and the reason why I said like I'm happy that you shared it, and anybody who's like watched it or shared it, is because I've been like, these guys have been like watching like the comments, and like sometimes like they'll send like an email to that group email I was telling you about with like a snippet, or like I'll tell them, like, hey, this happened, or somebody said this about your hair, Joe, but then they also said this about like, dude, he has amazing hair. That dude is like in his 50s and he looks like in his 30s. Get out of here. Yeah, like it like, and I know at least like one or two people that I interviewed ended up reconnecting with their old friends from Catapult because of it, which is like really rewarding for me. And I've seen a few people in the comments section that, they were just users of X-Band, that they've found each other. They're like, hey, I was such and such gamer tag on X-Band. This is my gamer tag on X-Band. Did anybody like belong to this clan? You okay?
Jesus Christ, can you believe that's water?
I tried to keep going, but then I saw you go down. Are you okay?
I'm gonna leave this in.
You should definitely leave it in.
Don't drink water, kids.
Just drink vodka, kids. You won't have these issues.
I didn't cough once. I just drank a bottle of white wine, a 24 Modelo, a shot, and a thing. Water.
Should have just been having vodka like me. But yeah, dude, like people that like played against each other on X-Band have reconnected in the comments section of the video.
No shit, really?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I can think of at least like 5 or 6 people, 5 or 6 pairs, I should say, that like found each other or whatever. And I've had a couple people like, because my DMs are open, like email me, like message me like, hey, Jonathan, from your video, like, could you let them know that I'm such and such, like whatever, and like it's so fucking cool, man. Like, I don't know, I like that made it, even though the other day I feel bad, extra bad now that I complained about it having 173,000 views, but a lot of that is like I loved X-Band so much as a kid, still to this day, that I just want people to like know about it. And I guess that's really why I make these videos. Like, even when I made the Game Shark video, like you were asking me earlier about like my personal opinion on these videos and that kind of stuff. Like, okay, like I was a Game Genie kid. I used Game Shark, and I know Game Shark's better. Don't get me wrong. But like Game Genie was like when I was like really like I needed these cheat codes, man.
Do you remember the NES one? Do you remember when that first came out? And you were
that was my
me and I can do what?
Yeah, that was my first Game Genie, man.
Me too.
But I loved going into like all like the little like details about like the business deals, and like for that one I had to go to like a library. I had to physically go to a library to like get like printouts of like a newspaper because they only had like a little clipping of it online. Thankfully it was in the state of Florida, but that's the kind of stuff where like I don't know, man. Like I just want people to like be as passionate about the game history as I am. And whenever I see people in the comments like reliving their childhood or like rekindling, some like passion with them, like I've had people leave comments like, "Hey, I used to play video games. I don't play them anymore, but here I am. But I like your videos." And then like a few months later, they'll be like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but from your videos, I got back into video games." Like,
That's really awesome.
what's fucking better than that? I mean, like the ad revenue is nice. It's not paying my mortgage or anything, but like
Right.
that kind of shit, dude. That's the kind of shit that like gets me going. Like when I see that, like somebody remembers something, it's not lost. These guys from Catapult that like, you know, made very little money. They left great six-figure jobs in the mid '90s to go do this. Sorry, I know I'm ranting.
No, keep going.
People like not a lot of people signed up for Expand. They did the best they could, and then like people forgot about it. It's weird that people forgot about Expand because it was everywhere, right? Yeah,
No, it makes sense that you forget about it because it was such a groundbreaking, amazing thing, and then it went away, and then everything
they,
that you
they
have has it built in.
but dude,
They didn't call it X-Band, but
right, they had like these ads on Monday Night Football and baseball with not Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding. Yeah, like I couldn't find one, dude. I spent days looking for this ad. I even like reached out to like services where you like pay to like license the ad, the footage and stuff, and like nobody could like fucking dig it up. But they spent a lot of money on this stuff, and like it's crazy. Like it was kind of forgotten about, right? And to see people like remember it and see these guys like so happy that like, oh, we're kind of like getting our due now. People are like, yeah, we are the forefathers of Xbox Live and PSN, and I don't know, man. It warms my heart.
yeah, I love this shit. Look, I'm such a weird nerd at heart. I love the hardware. All this stuff is, the hardware is what keeps me going. It's what makes my brain work. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't, I was just prepare to vomit in your own throat, people. But if it wasn't for the friends that I've made and like how much fun it is to work on this stuff with people, I wouldn't do it. If it was just the nerd part of it, I would if the pay was good enough. But the fact that I get to meet all the people that I do, I get to talk to people that have done things like there was one person. Once again, I don't want to call anybody out. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but they did something that no one's ever done before. That up until they did it, people said that couldn't be done. Definitely not. And when I did the video on it, they were like, I'm a little embarrassed. You kind of make this seem like it's a little more important than it is. I'm like,
It is.
you're actually the one who's wrong here. It is really important.
Right.
And it's awesome that I get to be a part of that. Even if I'm just essentially, all I am is the cheerleader in the middle with the pom-poms,
Right.
making the introductions, talking about stuff, and I'm fine with that, 100%. That's totally cool with me, as long as I get to be a part of it. So, yeah, it's awesome.
Well, dude, that's why, like, when you were mentioning, like, people who, a lot of YouTubers, and I'm not trying to rag on anyone, and I know you weren't either. There's a lot of YouTubers that just, like, they get in front of a camera, and they just give their opinion on something, and I'm not saying that there's no value to that, because especially if you have the personality for it,
Or if you
and
have the insight. Sometimes people
I was
who are
literally about to
experts
say
at
that
gaming-
word.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to imply you were cutting me off, but like, yeah, if you have like the insight and the personality for that, you can really make that work. Like, I mean, there's some people I watch, like AVGN nowadays. I love it more when James just like does AVGN, not being angry, but just giving insight because he has like good
Yeah.
insight, in my opinion.
So his first couple of seasons, no one had done it like him, and then there was the copycats that all sucked, and that's one of the main reasons why I got.
Irate gamer for life, sir. I'm sure he's a nice guy.
No,
I think he's still active, actually.
I get your point, but it's his unique brand of weirdness is what reminded me of how much I liked this stuff and why all right, now I get to do all these other things too, the nerdiness and the nostalgia and everything at the same time. But yeah, you're right. Now, that's been played out. I still enjoy his videos. I
Me
still
too.
watch them all, but
He's an unsung reviewer. I think like sometimes his comedy almost gets in the way of his like insightful commentary in some ways. But
yeah. So at first, things like the swears he'd come up with is what would make me
right,
laugh so
right.
hard.
Me
But
too.
the reason you could watch them more than once isn't because of that swear that was funny the first time you heard it. You're right. It's the insight. It's the tying things together and putting things in words that were in your brain as a kid.
Right.
Like, that's right. Why is a turtle running out of fucking air? And turtle can
Right.
swim. Get the fuck out of the like.
Right. He's not just making a joke. He's like, here's the joke, and it's funny, but here's why this joke shouldn't even exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So he's great with that, but yeah, man, like I don't even know why I brought him up or like what point I was making about YouTube, but oh yeah, about people that just like speak into a camera. You know that's fine and all that, and there's some people I watch like there's like I'm not a fan of a lot of reviews in general, but there are a few reviewers that like I watch religiously. Because they speak to me, their personality, their style, their editing or whatever. But yeah, I just wish that there was more. I don't know. Kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, and I'm doing a drunk rant here. I feel like a lot of people that complain about YouTube, other than the people that are like wrongly copyright claimed, wrongly copyright. So I fucking get that shit. But if people are a lot of times, I find that people that are like, YouTube's not promoting me, YouTube's not doing this. How good is your content? You know, at least my first 10 videos, like I wouldn't if I put them out right now, at least I wouldn't expect YouTube to like promote them. Like, dude, the other night, for some reason, I decided to watch my old Superman 64 video, and immediately I was like, a few minutes into it, I was like, I need to redo this. Like the editing's fine, my voiceover, it sounds like I'm reading. It sounds like it just I'm like, you know. And
So I gotta ask you a question then. When you listen to songs that you recorded a million years ago, whatever that might be, what do you feel when you hear those?
all right, so funny you mentioned that. So I was I think we talked about this last time. I was in a few bands, right? Beforehand. Two so I only recorded music with 3 of those bands. 2 of those bands I hate the overall product, the overall song with like everything tied in together. The recording quality I don't like. So there's a lot of that stuff. The last band I recorded with, I actually like our stuff. I think it holds up well. Don't get me wrong. There's things I would definitely change. There's some stuff I catch. I'm like, that's not. My singing wasn't quite on pitch there, or that harmony's a little weird, or whatever. But that was also the band that I like was in the longest, and like we were doing like 40-hour a week like practice sessions and that kind of stuff. So however, of that band I only listened to like the last EP we recorded. If I listened to any of the demos before that, I'm like, this is shit. This is shit.
Well, I mean, a demo shouldn't count in this conversation because a demo, for anybody that's ever done music, just like anybody who's edited a video that's only shown their other videographer friends type of thing, like you can't listen to a demo and think it's a song for somebody that doesn't do these things. Whereas,
Fair.
If you're a musician and you cut a demo and you send it to me, I could listen to it and understand where you're going from, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, the finished product. And it cracks me up because I have a few friends. One of them put out an EP that I love. The band broke up a million years ago. I still listen to them to this day. And every once in a while, I'll bring it up and I'm like, I can't listen to that. Why?
Dude, I've got a friend like that too.
Really? Yeah, it's not me. I love all of the stuff I record. I wouldn't play the demos anywhere. I'd play you the demos because you get it. No offense to anybody else listening that's not a musician, but I'd play a musician the demos. I'd play everybody else the rest. If they asked, well, here's what I'm embarrassed about, here's what I'm proud about, but like, I'm happy about my content. And
so let me ask you then, from songs that you've written or riffs maybe is a better way to look at it. Do you ever listen back to like a really old song and you're like, okay, overall the song's not bad, or I like the song, but do you ever listen, because the way I listen to it is like, oh, I don't like the way I finished that riff, or that's like the minutia that I end up like getting hung up on. Like, how is it when you listen to like one of your old songs or your old riffs or whatever? Like,
So maybe it's because of my ADHD or something, but I was always the riff guy. I would write the riffs, and it's funny because I don't think I've changed much in all of my years, because it's the same thing with the videos, and that I still love all of my old riffs, and some of them in the last album we wrote, we needed extra stuff, and I was like, well, here's the
pull
shit.
that old stuff.
Yeah, here's all this old stuff I
That's
used
awesome.
to have, and the person I was writing songs with was like, oh fuck yeah, this one, that one, that one. So there's like at least 2 riffs on the last album I put out that I wrote when I was 14. Or I'm like, yeah.
That's awesome.
And then you see this video, the last Mega SD video that I just put out, and there's some little tidbits in there, which, you know, it's like the video version of a riff, where it's like, I went right from this into this transition into that thing, and it's like, I'll always look at that and be
Like your
I
greatest
love it.
hits kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I mean,
funny.
okay, that's actually a fair point, and I get that because I've actually used. I think people don't really realize, but my Game Genie video, I've used like parts of it in 3 other videos.
Oh, really?
Just like a couple like transitions, like where there's like some documents that are relevant to it. Like in the Game Shark video, part of the reason why Game Shark was able to do what it did here was because of Game Genie's lawsuit, or Galoob's lawsuit with Nintendo. So like, I was like, well, why would I re-edit that? You know, when
If
it's
you already
literally
did
like
it right the first time, just use
right,
it.
right, right, and it's literally just like, oh, here's a document, it flashes, you know, nothing like crazy or whatever. But that's interesting, man. That's interesting. I guess I just like as a musician, I was always just like, so basically the guy that I mostly played with, he was in 2 of the 3 bands. He would come up with a lot of the riffs, and I guess I was like the Lars to an extent, where I would like come with a way to like put them together, and maybe I would write like a riff to like bridge them or whatever, and then maybe come up with like whatever the chorus would be or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Like I would love to be able to like say like a riff I wrote when I was 14 was good, but I was a real shit guitarist at 14, so maybe
Really?
that's yeah,
No,
dude.
I
It was
just
awful.
when you break it down, it's always the same thing for me. When you look at anything that you've done, anything that you've created and finished, where it's just like, if there's something you did that from day one you were like, this is cool. The stuff that you wrapped around it may have been shit, but there's always that one cool thing. So
So do you think it's different with like I was mentioning with that Superman video? I'm like, the editing's fine, the script is fine, my voiceover though,
same thing, yeah.
I'm like, I wouldn't do it like that, you know. So
Yeah, it's the same thing as if it were a song. You'd be like, all right, well, I like the song, I like the thing, but let's record it with this mic. Let's change this. It's so funny just to see how all this stuff crosses over between
yeah,
between different art forms, if that's what you call it. I don't know.
yeah.
I was a metal band, so it's hard to call it an art
No,
form.
dude. Like I think songwriting has a lot to do with video editing, because you're still trying to tell like a cohesive story. You know, obviously when it's a song, it's a musical story. You don't want to just go from the beginning to the end. That makes no sense, and you don't want to start with like the bridge. That doesn't make any sense either, right? So I think there's a lot of like parallels with pacing. You know, like the way you would pace like an 12-minute like more of an epic, you know, metal song. Obviously, like, well, you might need to have a bigger bridge or like maybe a second interlude, you know, and you know, maybe you do a key change because of how long it is to keep things more enticing. Well, same thing with a video, right? You got to take them on a journey. So I think there's like a lot of parallels. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is my unscientific opinion based on you and I being former metal. Well, you're still, I think, playing actively. I'm not, but metal musicians, it's like, you know, you want to take them on a journey, right? And I think like songwriting's a lot like you're still telling a story either way.
But at the end of the day, to make your point that you made before, if something is long, whatever long might be, but you don't feel like it's long, then you've accomplished the goal,
Right.
right?
Right.
So if there's a Dream Theater song that's 9 hours long, but
Great example.
you feel like it's only an hour, then
Yeah,
you've won.
yeah.
Or if it's a Metallica off the
Call of
Justice album that's
Cthulhu
6 minutes
oh yeah,
long, and
yeah,
yeah,
Justice for All, better example. Yeah, because
awesome.
Call of Cthulhu is actually only like 6 minutes, I think. I don't think it's very long.
Yeah, and, Dave Mustaine wrote that one.
Dude, did you see he's got throat cancer?
Craziness, right? Did you ever
Man.
meet him?
No, no. I've heard he's a sweetheart though.
No, yeah, I met him at the resurgence of one of his going back to alcohol, but that's how I wanted it. Like he was rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. He walks around like I paid. I was young enough to still be excited about it, but old enough to have the money to have bought this myself. So probably 21 or something. We bought the behind the scenes package, and I brought my guitar. And my buddy Frank, he's definitely not watching this. But my buddy Frank from Metadocs, who he was in like as big of a band as you could get in, where everybody outside of your town doesn't know who you are, but you're famous, and you're like, he was one of those.
Okay.
He knew everybody at the venue. He knew all the security. He knew everything. So we walked in and out like we owned the place. And I got my guitar into the signing. I was the only person who was able to do that. And it's just sitting there, and everybody walks out, and like the rest of the band members are trying to be nice because it's a beat old guitar. I'm like, oh look, here's a guitar. And he walks out, he's like, what the fuck is that? I went, sorry, it's mine. And he goes, what do you want me to do with it? And I just, I hand him the Sharpie and he signs it. I'm like, that's perfect. That's perfect. I want him to be Santa. I want him to be the thing that's not real. Be the angry Dave Mustaine.
Right.
I don't want that. Like, we even got a picture where he was like,
You don't want to humanize them. You still want him to have an air of mystery and.
No, I grew up being the fucking little weird kid where every time I listen to one of their songs, like Skin in My Teeth, where all the times that it was pronounced dead, where it's like, no, that's who I want. That's the person I want. I don't want you to be nice to me.
So like I was always like a big like metallic. So I was into growing up. I was into classical music and metal, and like before I learned
sense to me.
Yeah, so it does to me now too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially like Baroque music, which has like a lot of like similar like stuff with like the modes and stuff that you play like in like metal solos and stuff.
Or
but like
really intense Spanish acoustic guitar is actually the same thing,
right?
Like Rodrigo y Gabriela, that's a metal band right there.
Exactly.
So. Mm-hmm.
So like I first like learned how to play violin and cello, like all these instruments, and then like eventually guitar or whatever. But point is, like I was always like Metallica is like what got me into playing guitar. Like I had taken lessons for like very briefly, like maybe like a couple weeks when I was like 8 or something. I was like, whatever. And then I was like 16. I heard Master of Puppets, and when I was 16, like Master of Puppets had already been out for like 10 years, but I had never heard it somehow. And I remember I heard it, and I was just like, I pulled over my car. I'll never forget. I had the one only time I pulled over a song, my car for like that. I was blown away, and I was like, I have to learn how to play this, and so like, I was always a Metallica guy, but obviously eventually you find out about the history of Metallica and Dave Mustaine and blah blah. And I was like, I get that, whatever. Well, whatever. Once I got that shot in my system, Dave Mustaine is one of the greatest like guitarists of all time, and he's not a bad vocalist. I wouldn't say he's great. I wouldn't say James Hetfield is great either.
My cousin Nick and I talk about this all the time. If you just say, is he a vocalist? He's fucking terrible. But can you think of a better vocalist for Megadeth?
I can't think of another vocalist for Megadeth.
Never.
I mean, I don't know if...
It's funny you told the pull over the car story, because I knew I wanted to do something with music, so of course you want to be a singer if you don't know anything else. And then I watched Slash walk up on the guitar during November Rain, and I'm like, that's what I want. I want to play guitar. And I wanted it until I heard Rust in Peace. And the first 9 notes. I went, I need to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. I need to. That's why I have the Rust in Peace guitar right behind me up on the wall. So that very quickly became a need, and that's why my guitar style is the way it is. And that's why most people can't work on my guitars, because they're like, oh yeah, we set the exact height of the strings off of the thing, and I play it, and it all sounds like mud because I'm a large fucking angry fat man smashing on a guitar, and everything hits the frets.
Probably a lot of downstrokes.
Yeah,
same here. That's how I was too, man. Like I just like I was like, well, what's Hetfield playing? And like I mean, eventually, you find your own like kind of thing or whatever. But yeah, man. Like I thought like the first time I heard Brandenburg. This is so fucking nerdy. The first time I heard Brandenburg, I was like, that's when I like fell in love with music. Brandenburg and G, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, I love Baroque music. So like I started like I got really into like violin or whatever, and I was like, well, Then my parents got me into like piano lessons, which is great because piano, like that helps you learn anything, musically related. But like, yeah, man, like when I heard Master of Puppets, I was like, this is it.
It's so funny because certain music has the same root to it. Like there's one DMX album where I love it. I loved it the day it came out. I still listen to it to this day, and it's a heavy metal album, 100% start to finish. It's not. I mean, it's a rap album, but it's the same elements. Same with you're talking about classical music, Spanish guitar, like Middle Eastern guitar. So half of my family is
there's like a certain cadence, a certain delivery to that kind of music, a certain
a lot of shit's
attitude
going on at the same time that shouldn't work together, but it kind of does perfectly for whatever weird reason. Yeah, that's my kind of music. Doesn't matter what kind it is.
You're only going to be able to use like 10 minutes of this interview.
I'll stitch it together. I'll send it to you. We'll see. Let's let Jimmy Hoppa decide which parts go live.
Yeah.
That'll be terrible. It'll be a 4-minute interview with nothing but swears.
Well, listen, man. Once I'm glad you like reached out to me when you did, because literally probably in about a week I'm gonna pack up all my shit once I'm done with this video on these lovely things. I'm gonna. By the way, if you want one of these, I'll be willing to send it to you because I don't know if I'm gonna ship these to Seattle. Maybe I will. They're pretty light. I'm like. I'm sure you don't need any consoles.
No, and because I live in like a 2 feet by 2 feet square apartment in Manhattan, I would have no place for it. But I'd love to try those things. So bring them to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Yeah.
Bring those. Have a booth. Have people, experience your videos at the booth right there. Have a Power Glove and a Game Genie and shit.
I don't know, man. I think it's weird. Like. I'm sure I'm not gonna get invited to PRG because I they invite like really big channels, but I'm kind of glad because like, dude, I just want to walk around, hang out with people, experience.
Did you ask though?
No, because I don't want them to say yes. I mean, that sounds weird. Like if they invited me, of course I would be like honored and I would do it, but.
I didn't know how this is really stupid to say. People go right ahead and laugh at me. I deserve it. But there was a few expos that I contacted this year. It was like, hey, I don't know if you know who I am. I'd love to do a panel there though. I'm trying to do this thing, and like, yeah, we don't know why you haven't contacted us before this. Like,
really?
That's how it works. I thought you were supposed to contact me. They're like,
that's what I assumed.
Yeah. So I guess I assumed wrong. So apparently I'm doing a lot of panels this year because I
assumed that after I got contacted by like another convention, so I was like, oh, this is how it works. And like, dude, I'm so stupid. I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna get contacted all the time now. All right, well, maybe I'll give him a contact, and maybe I can get a free hotel room out of it, and we can all like.
You don't get anything for free usually, but whatever.
Oh, at Retro World, I got like a free hotel room.
Really? Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
they hooked it up with a free hotel room. I think I got like some kind of meal ticket too that I lost.
So the people that run that, so one of the people is Chris Crone, the guy who owns the Retro Games Plus chain of game stores in Connecticut. Can't believe I just blanked on the name. But when the website was still a Google Doc, I met him. I was like, hey man, here's this thing I'm trying to do. I don't know, I'm sorry to ask, but if you could help me out, I'm looking for these things. And he's like, gonna be honest, got no clue what you're talking about, but sure, I'll help you. Here's what I got here, let me know what else you need. And like, he was always a huge help. And then he introduced me to the other people and that. So I told him, like, you could always count on me as an alternate. Like, don't even, like, if somebody cancels the day before, you call me and I'll show up the next day and fill a panel. And they've been super nice to me ever since. So I love Retro World because of that. I've done a few panels that turn out to be great. The first time you do one, you think like, who the fuck is going to show up?
Dude, that's what I thought.
Right? And then people show up, it's like, oh, this is so nice. I'm so glad I prepared for this to try to give people what they need. Funny I say that, but I just built a thing that's 10 feet away from me that's coming to Too Many Games on Friday. I built a weird thing with contraptions and stuff, so hopefully people will enjoy that.
I'm sure they will, dude.
This is going to air after Too Many Games, so...
Well, dude, so when I went to Retro World Expo, I was kind of the same way. I was like, and they were like, oh yeah, just let us know what you're gonna present. We'll have you do a panel. And I'm like, So I had a booth, like a booth. Like I had nothing for sale or whatever. Obviously, I was like not prepared. I didn't like my girlfriend at the time was like, "Why don't you make shirts or whatever?" I'm like, I don't. I think at the time I had like 30,000 subs or something. I'm like, no one's gonna.
I'd have bought a shirt. That'd be neat.
Well, you're very kind, but I was just like, whatever. And by the way, so this shirt I got from Game Dave. He would not let me pay him. I tried to pay him, and same thing with Norm. I ended up paying them in drinks. So I was like, sorry, this is what you get.
Nice.
But anyways, yeah, I was just like, I don't know. And they put me in like one of the big rooms, like one of the big halls. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, definitely no one's gonna. And like, I mean, the hall was not full by any means, but like more people than I thought showed up. And like, I showed the first 10 minutes of the X-Band video that like I had put together. And it's funny because like I had gotten into what I call like London Vice is my wrestling name. I had gotten into my Fat London Vice phase when I like filmed the on-screen parts. I had like an injury where I couldn't like really work out, and I was just like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna eat cakes every day. I don't know what I was thinking.
You're like, Bob could do it.
Yeah, that's fine. And then it's funny, like when I put out the final video, like the guys from Catapult that had like seen the first 10 minutes were like, "Oh wow, you lost a lot of weight." But yeah, dude, it was scary, man. And I'm not afraid of public speaking or anything like that, but it's weird having a room of people watch your content. Wow, I am drunk.
Good. Thanks so much for doing this. We're gonna do our follow-up interview. Will hopefully be at PRG this fall.
Yeah,
or maybe before that.
Hopefully, these won't start going for $300 afterwards.
Yeah, we'll all blame you for that. So
please don't.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll follow. Patreon.com/. Games on wrestling.
//
Yeah, I've been drinking too. All right, man.
It's dangerous to go alone. 2 slashes.
All right, I'll see you at the next one.